see here. Uh, I take it it's not Maria, but it looks like Velez. Interpretation. Let's see. Start that. I think that's how that goes. I'm sure you click here to get started. Okay, can you hear me? Are you online? Okay. Oh, and then Hey, 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 interpretation, are you there? Oh, The audio. So, oh, look at that. I can hear you. Can you hear me? I hear you in the Spanish translation headphones. So when somebody clicks on interpretation, they should be able to hear whatever you're translating. All right, perfect. All right, awesome. Yeah, no problem. Thanks, Maria. Okay, bye. Mm-hmm. Oh, hey, yep. Did it, and you hear it in your headset yet? No? Yeah? Okay. Okay, cool. All these are.
On the camera. You don't know, but this was over here, and I could push my way over. Yeah, so yeah, gotta go at least one row over. You should be solid. I can give you a little if I see you on the camera.
Okay, thank you.
We're on the same page.
I'm not good at hiding my facial expressions. So,
Yeah, I got spoiled back in COVID when we all had masks.
oh, that would have been. I think about that. That would have been nice.
My glasses were always almost steamed up.
Yeah.
I had to learn.
Did you guys have in person?
We did, yeah, we did. The two went back to so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fully moved here, but yeah,
Yeah.
I can only imagine.
Oh yeah. It was a much bigger circle of tables because everybody had to get one table.
Yeah.
So, a lot more rules for us.
How's it going, guys?
Okay.
Yeah. They're good. Yeah, we're show's doing pretty well. Like, yeah, the TK has been alright so far. She has committed to new growth. Yeah, so there's yeah, PM, and then she's doing the YMCA for the mornings. So just try it out, see how it goes. Yeah, she's a November birthday, so she's a little older. So it makes for her especially it makes the transition a lot easier. She's a bit younger student, a bit harder. Oh yeah. Did yours just graduate high school? Yeah. Okay. 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 Yeah, it's always. Did they stay with you or did they go? How are you? So in a year they're gonna.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Oh wow.
I tested with her.
Yeah, I gotta go back and get them. They're in the far back. Yeah, do you have a key? Oh, Ryan.
shows the bottom.
Yes?
I gotta go, sorry.
Yeah. Now you just have to keep Mandy in.
Did the TV turn off? No, no.
So you're gonna always share the things over here, so I don't need to start diligent over here?
What I did was I had,
Diligent right there.
thank you, sorry. I had,
Oh.
this was, I think, um,
That's the
that is that
agenda.
presentation, right? I think
Yeah,
that was the
that's
one that you wanted
FAQ.
to share. So
Mhm.
what I figured was I
And then
gave this one,
to Ryan.
yeah, as a presenter or whatever,
Mhm.
or something like that. So they should be able to share now.
Okay.
Um,
But the presentations, the slideshows, you'll share from your side.
yes.
Perfect.
And they'll just click through.
Okay.
We tested it, it works.
Okay.
I might take a second because I got to click on that screen for them to advance it. But other than that,
Okay.
that
All
should
right.
work.
Rock on.
Cool. Did the TV just turn off? Oh.
I'm out of here, buddy. I gotta go.
Yep.
How are you? Oh, really? That's awesome. Exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah. I, no, he didn't. Well, I mean, I
Okay, if everybody has got their computers configured, up and running, then I think we'll begin at 6:15. Let's see here. The board met previously in closed session, and we discussed pending litigation and real property matters, and no decisions were made. Well, we did on the pending litigation. No formal decisions were made. Okay, do we have consensus on the order of business? Okay, seeing consensus, then let me move on to, we have simultaneous Spanish translation. For those who are in the room, if you require translation, if you go to the table at the back and to the fellow who's holding up the headphones, translation will be provided for you there. If you are watching us on Zoom, if you go to the globe icon on the bottom of your screen, it will direct you to translation. So now we'll have our translator repeat this.
Y vamos entonces a tener interpretación simultánea para esta junta. Los audífonos están en la parte trasera del salón, si es que están de manera presencial. Si están por Zoom, ya saben que solamente tienen que elegir el globo terráqueo en la parte inferior de la pantalla. Gracias.
Thank you. Item 5.01 is correspondence. At the time the agenda was published, no written correspondence had been received directed to the board. Item 5.02 is public comment. At this time, we appreciate hearing from anyone who has come to speak to us. You will be afforded 3 minutes. If we would prefer that you hold off until, if you want to speak to a specific agenda item, until that item is called. However, if you're not able, feel free to come and speak to us at this time. You may not cede your time to anyone else, and we will hold to the 3 minutes. And though the board cannot respond directly to you, please be assured that we are hearing you.
I have a public speaker's request form from Phil Angel, and we would ask that if anyone wants to speak, forms are on the table back there. Fill them out.
All right, am I on? Sounds like it. Good evening, board. It's been a great start to this school year. As an educator, I'm Phil Angel, of course, president of the San Luis Coastal Teachers Association, and also a community member. As a teacher, I love August. I can't wait. I'm always chomping at the bit to get started, and this year was no exception. The PDs that our district offered were outstanding. Kudos to our ISLA team for the work they put in. I transitioned away from Los Osos Middle School this year, and so I spend part of my day over at Slow High, and I've never really got to interact much with the principal there, Mr. Dickinson. And his first day speech was absolutely motivational, just like all of our good leaders here in our district. So kudos to the team that the district team has hired, our leadership team. I know you guys were busy over the summer, and I appreciate the work you put in developing goals. Of course, we all agree fiscal responsibility is a school board member's #1 job, and I've had to sit behind that desk at one point and ponder the same questions that you guys are pondering. And so I understand the need for fiscal responsibility, and I also understand the need for maintaining and keeping qualified educators. So I'm anxious to be a part of the team that helps you develop and meet both of those goals. The other thing I wanted to speak about in the summer, and I missed it, I apologize for missing the board meeting, but it was my understanding that you guys are getting rid of the Zoom protocols, and I know you can't answer, but if you are, I will say at this time it's not the best time. Not because I'm worried about Zoom, or I'm always worried about Zoom. It's not because I'm worried about COVID protocols or whatever. I'm really worried about there are members of our community who, right now, given the political climate, are afraid to come out in public, afraid to come and speak to you because you don't know who's waiting outside. You know, we're not in a safe place yet. Our federal government is taking people, and I would hate to see voices silenced when we could still use Zoom in this time where there's great fear and uncertainty in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Angel.
Next, I have Ben Lippert.
Hi, Madam President, members of the board. I had been hoping that somebody that's better at public speaking and better at impulse control would take over in speaking, but there's nobody else here, so I'm going to come and do it. I'm going to talk a little bit about something I think is going to be important this year, and that's transparency and accuracy in the information that is given to both the board and to parents. I have 2 daughters, both in at Los Ranchos this year. When my oldest daughter was, 18 months old, we used to joke that she had this mantra of "prove it, daddy." If I told her we didn't have yogurt, she wanted to see the fridge, right? So prove it. And we're a skeptical family. And I think that's important as you get to school. Elementary school, it's show your work, right? Show your work so that we know that you understand the question, not that you just have an answer. When you get to, at least in my experience, law school, it's citations, and you end up with people jockeying to see how many citations they can get in a journal article, which is excessive. But my point is this: I want staff to show their work. I hope that you ask staff to show their work. I think that starts with the budget, site-specific budgets, line item budgets. We did, the staff did a great job showing the MTSS line item budgets, and I think that's how things are understandable for people. And I think going forward with the budgetary challenges that we're going to have, it's important that the board require or request staff to show their work in a way that parents can understand. I think that some of the board members go a long way, and there's a great deal of trust and deference provided to staff. You know them very well. There are parents who have been engaged starting this year who haven't had that trust built up. And so I think it's going to be really important as people get more upset, because I think that's what's going to happen. And I don't know if you have, I'm running out of time here. I don't know if you have kids in the district or not, grandkids in the district or not. There's rumblings with parents. Things are going to get, exciting, I guess. Provide as much information as you can. Site-specific budgets, I think, is a good way to start. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Mr. Lippert. Is there anyone else who would like to address the board that did not submit a written comment sheet? Seeing no one, then we'll move on. The next item is superintendent's updates. Business and budget update, Mr. Pinkerton.
So yeah, right now, fiscal department in particular is focused on closing out the books from 24-25. So critical information for the board will come in September with unaudited actuals, which at that point will let us know exactly what we spent, what our revenues were, and really probably the most important thing with unaudited actuals is really where are our reserve levels? Where did we end up the year? Right. So again, that's coming in September. I'm going to talk a lot more about the budget. I have a presentation tonight to share, kind of walk through some just general information to start the school year out, I think, for both the public and as well as for the school board. So we'll go through that very soon. And along with that, we're also, so that we can provide that type of data that Mr. Lippert was discussing, working with both human resources and our fiscal department to really put staff in place, have position control set, who's working where, what are the, have that information, because until we have that ready to go and have that laid out, it's hard then to, what are those supports, get those detailed things to, again, share with both our budget committee as well as the board. So those are things that we're really working on right now. HR, I know in particular, is kind of getting those set right as the school year begins, our 10-month employees, getting them put in so that we can begin to really give that board that information that they need to, that you will need to, make the right decisions moving forward. So more to come.
Thank you. Next is educational services update, Mrs. Yamashita.
Good evening, board and community members. I wanted to share with you some exciting news that Bishop's Peak Elementary School has been awarded America's Healthiest School Award in 6 areas of excellence: strengthening social emotional health, cultivating staff well-being, increasing family and community engagement, improving nutrition and food access, bolstering physical education and activities for students, and supporting school health services. So congratulations to Mrs. Principal Jones. Also, Ms. Primer from our food service department was part of the group that put together this application for the award. And so we're so happy for Bishop's Peak community to be recognized for their strength and focus on the whole child. Also, an exciting development this year are our family guide videos. To Mr. Lippert's point about the importance of transparency with families, we are trying to be not only transparent about budget, but also about learning topics in schools and the curriculum materials we're using. And to that end, we have our family guides that describe at each grade level exactly the content the students will be learning in the 4 core subject areas: English, math, social science, and sciences. And then there's also QR codes to the curriculum parent resources. And there's also tips about how you can talk to your child at this grade level to help them be successful in school. That was the old version. The new version is we have videos put together for each grade level that is opening video by Dr. Prater talking to our communities at large about how to be a good partner with our schools. And then each grade level has one of our very own grade level teachers discussing the topics that are at hand in the family guides. And those are all posted on our website, hosted through YouTube. And I encourage all family members to get to look for their child's grade levels and look up and see what their children are going to get to experience in our schools this year. Um, what a fantastic, to Mr. Angel's point, what a fantastic start to the school year. We had an opportunity to go out and celebrate and visit each of our schools. I'm going to run through briefly some of the items I saw. I hit Baywood during TK playtime, and the TK teacher there was so excited to share with me how great it is only having 12 students at a time in TK. You know, formerly when we had all kids all day, they had 24 4-year-olds at once, which is a lot of little friends to wrangle. And so she was talking about how great it was to have half the class in the AM and half the class in the PM. At Bishop's Peak, we got to go visit the brand new kindergarten and first grade classrooms that we had visited as a school board, but now they have children and backpacks and name stickers on cubbies, and it just looked amazing. Also, Miss Parsons at CL Smith, the new principal there, got to hold her first well-attended back to school night, where she shared with the community at large some of the new things they're going to be working on at Smith this year. And actually, one of the highlights for me was watching her S cubed, Stacy Sancho, was right at her side as she was having technical difficulties trying to navigate the TV going offline. Stacy was able to jump up and help and get it online, and you could see a really blooming pair of leaders that are going to do great things at that school this year. Hawthorne certainly had some challenges getting up and running. We were down to the last minute, and I do want to celebrate BG&T team, Mr. Pinkerton, Mr. Bonin. They were driving around Hawthorne 7 days a week, updating cement pour calendars to show us what had been poured when. It was phenomenal work. And nevertheless, so Hawthorne was focused on getting teachers connected with students and having students that are new to the campus feeling like they knew where to go. And Hawthorne both held a fabulous event in the park. Mr. Buckman saw me there. We got to see the families meeting their teachers at the park in advance of starting school, since the campus was still under construction. They also their ILT, their instructional leadership team of teachers, volunteered and came in early to give family tours on a day that would not have been a work day for them, to make sure any family wanting to tour the site in advance could. So we were so excited for Hawthorne to get up and going. Los Ranchos and Mr. McMillan sent out the most fantastic video of the entire Los Ranchos Elementary School students in the multi-purpose room. And he was up on the stage with his phone making a video for parents about what a great school year it was going to be. And all the kids on the ground were like yelling, "Yay!" So if you haven't checked out Mr. McMillan's video at Los Ranchos, I highly encourage you to see that. I got to go see Mr. Goosen at Griffin Monarch Grove, and I arrived as he was marching this perfectly silent, straight line of third graders back into their classroom after having talked to them about how to be leaders in their combo class of second and third graders. And so he was giving them a talk about how to be a role model for the other younger students in the class and why exactly each of them had been picked to be placed in this class and the extra responsibilities that bears. So it was a super fantastic opening at Monarch Grove, even with some water dripping down from roofs and ceilings. And again, our buildings and grounds team quickly came to the rescue. At Pacheco, wow, they have torn out like completely down to the bare bones one of the buildings. But what was a beautiful thing was, man, school was just going on as if nothing had happened. I did get the opportunity to again run into a very engaged S cubed Lisa Stevens and her EL specialist partner. I ran into them out in the community having lunch because they were going to be returning to the district office for a combined S cubed EL teacher professional development that I'm sure Ms. Maitri will tell us about later. But this is such a fantastic sign that these out of the classroom NTSS educators are choosing to spend their private time together, collaborating and working on behalf of our students. And you know the great growth that we've seen at Pacheco and their success with their EL students being reclassified and moving up levels. And I just have to think that part of that is the great collaboration. Sinsheimer, I also showed up during TK lunch, and man, there were a good 4 large cafeteria tables outside filled with 4 and 5-year-olds simultaneously. And there must have been 8 to 10 adults all there, hands ready to help open juice cups and peel back the cheese, mozzarella cheese sticks, etc. So while it might seem like, holy cow, this is pretty, a lot of 4-year-olds in one spot, they had it under control. Laguna Middle School has had a beautiful opening. I got to participate in it as a parent, but they have had events at nights during the school day, multiple events to make sure students knew where to go, parents got their question answered, family guides were passed out. Los Osos Middle School, I don't know if you've been to their campus recently, but their front office is now split up into 3 separate locales. And Ms. Contreras was doing an amazing job organizing and reorganizing the structure. So there was an administrative assistant, an administrator, and a counselor in each of the locations, prepared to jump to and help. As I was there, a student who had arrived late and needed to find the classroom that they were going to. I've heard nothing but good reports about nutrition and lunchtime and how appropriately engaged all of those students are. And then finally, with our amazing high schools, Pacific Beach has a fantastic opening protocol where the first day of school in the morning, returning students come, and then they have a special afternoon session for anyone who's new to Pacific Beach so they can acclimate them and connect with their advisor that's their teacher that watches them. They have about 55 students, which is their usual projected targeted enrollment to start the year. So they are off to a fantastic start, and they get to have their WASC accreditation this year. So that's something new and different for Pacific Beach. Morro Bay High, as I got to visit campus, of course, as always, I met Mr. Scaldi, Mr. Wallace, and Mr. Davis were standing out in front with their speaker blasting and playing as they were welcoming students into campus. And there was one family who was trying to figure out where to go, and they were helping that family figure out where to go. We got to go visit a couple of classrooms, and there was great culture building games going on. In Miss Cherry's classroom, they were playing something called Spicy Uno as a team building game with the students. And at Slow High, I got to visit on the first day of campus, and all of the administrators were in the office working together, trying to help support both train the new office assistants that were there, because there are, of course, students that help out in the office, and they needed to know what to do. And simultaneously, they were also reacting to and supporting the vape sensors going off. And you'll remember last year we had the same challenge of at the beginning of the school year, students are not aware that we have tools and technologies that help us make sure that everyone is following the rules and not smoking on our campuses. And so with the vape sensors, when they go off, they're able to react quickly and follow up and all of the things. And then after a couple days, that goes away. So we have just had a fantastic opening to our school year. Finally, I know I've been talking a lot, but I wanted to be sure that you knew just today the U.S. News and World Report came out regarding high schools. And in the Tri-County area, both of our high schools ranked very highly. Slow High got 3rd place and Morro Bay High got 7th place. And we are so proud of the rigorous experience that our students have when they are at our fine high schools. So top 10 in the Tri-County area of Monterey County, San Luis Obispo County, and Santa Barbara County. I thought it was that, but I was like, that's too big. But yeah, Santa Barbara County. So we're excited.
Wonderful.
We should have been higher, but.
Yeah, congratulations to everyone that's working to achieve that student success. Okay, Measure C update, Mr. Pinkerton. You're
Yeah,
up again.
well, as has been discussed, Measure C is in full swing. So we have projects happening at all of our elementary, almost all of our elementary sites, both middle schools, brand new campus pack, beach beginning. There's just a lot going on. And so I would be remiss if I didn't thank the teachers, secretaries, principals, staff who are having to deal with that construction. right? I mean, last minute move in, a day, 2 days before school starts, and honestly, when we went around to meet with teachers and try to, again, what do you need? What can we do? How can we help you? Type of thing. They were all taking it in stride, smiles on their face, really appreciative of the new classroom spaces that they're going to have for their kids, and just making it work, right? And so it really helps. And so again, as Mr. Yamashi just said, kudos to our BG&T staff, or I believe Mr. Angel said, our custodians. I mean, they really took it upon themselves to get teachers moved and get things set up. You might notice a few extra weeds around the front of schools. So normally that's like our 2 weeks before school starts. They hit every site. They go to the front. They make it beautiful. Well, they were moving teachers in the classroom. So they tried to get to a lot of those spots, and they will clean those areas up over the next few weeks, right, as we get caught back up. But of course, the most important thing we had to do was to get teachers in classrooms ready for kids. So a lot of that was accomplished. And again, we're finally starting to see some of the TKK classrooms coming on board. That was our focus to start, right? Because they need a larger area, for the kids to play and have restrooms and all those things. And so, again, there's still a lot of construction happening throughout our sites, and we try to warn staff. I go out to sites. We talk at staff meetings about just kind of getting through it. And it's one thing to talk about, it's another thing to have to live through that construction and painting and those types of things. So again, thank you to both our certificated and classified staff for working with us and with our project managers to get this work done. In the end, it will be a beautiful thing. Our schools for kids, when you go to a school like Hawthorne, even though they're still working on the main building, when you look at that main building and compare it to the site that hasn't been completed yet, the multipurpose room or the classrooms, and it's so nice, right? It is great to have really nice facilities for our teachers and our kids, and that's what we plan to, have throughout all of our sites as we move forward. So, thank you.
Thank you. Item 7.01, multi-tiered systems of support. The MTSS program update. That would be Mrs. Shepherd and Mr. Neff and Mrs. Gould and Ms. Maitre.
Thank you. Good evening, board. As Ms. Rogers said, we're here to present tonight on the multi-tiered systems of support. You'll hear us refer to this as MTSS throughout our presentation this evening, and we're going to be providing an update. First, starting with elementary, both myself and Ms. Maitre are going to get us started, and then we'll shift gears and talk about secondary with Mr. Neff, and then Ms. Gould will round us out talking a little bit about the social, emotional, and behavioral aspects of MTSS. All right, so we're going to start big picture. We're good. Can you guys see this slide? Okay. Absolutely. Can you hear me better now? Okay. So we're going to start big picture, and that's taking a look at how does MTSS align with and how is it embedded within our bigger priorities. And so first off, within our annual board priorities, what you all have charged us with is academic achievement. That's our first and most paramount priority that we're focused on. And so you'll see, not only are we looking at academic achievement for all students through that first best instruction, but also what is that tiered system of support that we're strategically and systematically going after by looking at student data, and to the end of attempting to close the achievement gap. And so those are outlined really big picture within the board priorities and also within our board approved LCAP goals. So it calls it out specifically by name within our second goal area. And you'll see that it's supported, it's our first priority from our educational stakeholders as well, which is to strengthen our district-wide MTSS within academics. Within goal 3, you can also see it outlined within our stakeholder input. So we're going to speak specifically to the academic side of the house first. Janet will be speaking to a little bit more about those categories for action when she comes up to the mic. So how does this actually play out in terms of how we spend some of those LCAP dollars? You'll see within the bottom, it's coming out as kind of a purple color there. Our categories for action, we hire personnel so that we can provide targeted support to our students that need it most. And that's in the form of our student success specialists, or what we sometimes call our SCUBs. They were already mentioned this evening. We also hire academic intervention teachers, or AITs. And in addition to that, within the LCAP, we fund Spanish intervention teachers at our dual language immersion sites. This graphic provides us an opportunity to look at what a healthy system and recommended system for MTSS looks like. And I want to just take a minute to provide that frame of reference before we dive into some of the data and talk about what does this look like within San Luis Coastal. So you'll see at the very bottom level of this triangle states all students 100%. And so that is under the header of Tier 1, or what we call universal supports. Within this section, you would be thinking of core instruction, our curriculum that is delivered within a general education setting. All students get access to this. Tier 2 should be supplemental, something that we're identifying as a student need, and it's only for some of our students, ideally 10 to 15% of our students. The rest of them are absorbing that information and able to meet standard and proficiency through our first best instruction that they're receiving within Tier 1. So Tier 2 is supplemental and targeted, and this is where you would sometimes see our SCUBs or AITs pulling students out into small groups from various classrooms based upon data to fill some of those knowledge gaps. You also might see it looking like a general education teacher running a small group in their classroom though. So there are various ways that we can deliver Tier 2 or supplemental instruction. Tier 3 is intensified support. So this might look like one-on-one intervention that's being delivered by school personnel. It might also be written in the form of an individualized education plan, and this should be for very few students. And that means that we've provided Tier 1, there's been some supplemental support, and now we're going to that next level of intervention and support. So within that, what we're now going to shift to is Corey Mike-Tree is going to come up and speak to not this generic slide, but a little bit more about what does it actually look like here in San Luis Coastal.
Before we go to the next slide, I just want to say last year for the 24-25 school year, when we looked at all of our interventions that students we were serving in intervention in Tier 2, we hit about 14.8% was the average at our sites. Some of our sites were a little higher. DLI, for example, because we have a little more personnel regarding intervention at the Spanish and English. And some sites were a little lower than that, 14.8%, because they also had less resources. So moving on to some numbers, I just wanted to show you across our 9 sites that have a Tier 2 system, that we have a pullout system. These are the numbers of students that were served at each of those sites. These students that are, the numbers that you're seeing right now are the actual students that were pulled out into small groups, not necessarily the students that stayed in class and or received small group instruction during like win time with their classroom teacher. It also, those numbers, you'll see Pacheco and Baywood are a little bit higher because we do have an intervention system for in KN1 for Spanish as well. The next slide here you're looking at is a breakdown by our subgroups, both SED and our EL by site. How many students that were served, again, remains on the top, and then how many of those students were SED students and how many of those students were EL. As a collective, like I said, 621 students were served. We were hitting that 14.8%. 387 of those students, or 62% of the students we served in Tier 2 were SED, and 30%, 186 students we served in Tier 2 were EL students. This year, we plan again to continue progress monitoring the growth of these students, but we also would like to add additionally foster homeless youth as well as LTELs, students that have been EL learners for a significant amount of time. And with that, I'm going to move on to kind of some of goals that we set as a team last year and where we fell. So at the beginning of the year, 161 of the students we were serving fell into what we call high risk. In STAR, it's called urgent intervention. Typically, those students fall below the 9th percentile. That's essentially 1 in 4 of the students we were seeing were high risk or urgent intervention. At the end of the year, 98 students. So we actually decreased to 16%, 1 in 6 were in high risk. And I will let you know of those 98 students, 44 of them were K and first grade students. So we know that that literacy takes some time, and sometimes in that early foundational skills, it does take longer for students to acquire reading, also starting with language acquisition. The second bullet point at the beginning of the year, we started with 64 students who were at or above. Of those students, they were probably pulled because they were just slightly above the risk threshold of 40%. But at the end of the year, 278 students screened at or above. And we were really proud of that. We set a goal for ourselves of 45%, and we actually hit that. We did set a goal for high risk, and it was at 15, and we missed that by 1%. The last slide I believe I'm going to share, is kind of our next steps for this year and kind of where our focus is. Last year for a universal screener, we utilized FastBridge at our English sites, and we had STAR at our DLI sites. And this year I'm excited because we are going STAR across all 10 sites at the elementary level. So that's the STAR assessment you see there. STAR also does Spanish as well as a screener. So that's why our DLI sites had started there about 2 years ago. We also, back in May, you helped us adopt DIBELS for the RDRS screener for California. And we will be administering DIBELS to all K through 2nd grade students October 20th through November 7th. We also are going to have increased our student time. Our S-Cubes are being asked to take on more groups this year than they did last year. And again, like I said earlier, we are prioritizing that group with our subgroups. So really honing in on those. And this year, I'm also excited that we are adding a layer to math. This is the first year in a while that we have had a math universal screener. And that is rolling out actually as we speak. We are in our first window for that, screening all students in math at their level, except for kindergarten, because they get numeracy questions in their early literacy screener. And from that, we get to start building a system very similar to what we did with reading. And so we're excited to see that data roll in.
And so a little bit about behavior. When I first started here in San Luis Coastal, I met with Melanie Crawford at the County Office of Education, and she had a proposal so that we could potentially start participating in what she was calling a social, emotional, and behavioral cohort. And essentially what this program is a way for schools to put proactively in place some common systems across their campuses so that they can respond to student behavior. I'll give you an example. If we're doing this on a tier 1 level for all students, it would be ensuring that all staff have a common vocabulary and a common way to redirect students when they see what we call an unexpected behavior demonstrated by them. That way students know what will happen if they demonstrate one of these unexpected behaviors, and they understand also what is expected of them at school. So we know that post-COVID things look a little different at our school sites, and this was a need that was expressed right as I was coming on board. And we are now, a few of our sites you'll see are in year 1, tier 2, which is technically their 3rd year of this program with the county office, where they're moving on from those tier 1 school-wide systems into more targeted interventions and supports for students that might not be responding to those typical redirections and systems that we've put in place, such as recognizing students when you do see something that you want, which can also impact and influence the behavior of other students around them. So I'm happy to report that we're continuing to expand this programming and have more sites interested in participating. You'll see that we have 8 of our 10 elementary sites that are now involved at different levels. It's a slower rollout, but we've found great success. And we have several sites that are in that 3rd year that have been recognized at the state level, as you know, for their work within this program and their rollout at their school sites. Also layered within this is a program called SWIS, and I've spoken with some of you individually about this program, but it's called School-Wide Information Systems. And essentially what it does is it helps our staff to be able to identify patterns of behavior for certain students and then proactively respond before things get to a point that maybe the child is starting to demonstrate even more intense behaviors at the school site. So that starts to kick in once our sites have completed year 1, tier 1. And so you'll see we have 5 sites that are going to be utilizing SWIS this school year. And again, we'll be partnering with SLCUSD. There are coaches that are embedded within that cohort program. Corey's been involved from the beginning and attending and supporting the sites. And we also have Trisha Taves, who's going to be joining this year and supporting as well. So that's on the behavioral side of the house within MTSS. It's both academics and behavior because we know students need support in both areas in order to be successful. So that wraps up our elementary portion, and I'll hand it over to Dan for secondary. Oh, I apologize. I would be remiss if I did not mention our student success specialists. Between Corey Tree and these amazing individuals that actually are the boots on the ground and executing MTSS at all of our sites, they're really the ones that are making the magic happen at our school sites and doing the hard work, knowing each and every student and identifying who needs to be served and where we need to be giving them that boost. So I really want to express my gratitude to Corey and our student success specialists for the amazing hard work that they invest in each of our sites.
Thank you, Ms. Shepard. Thank you, Ford, for giving me some time to talk with you about what MTSS looks like in our secondaries, our middle schools, and our high schools. It looks a little bit different than elementary. And so you can see based on breaking down by tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. In tier 1, we have a tutorial program, both at Laguna, SLO High, and then Morro Bay is launching it this year. I believe Laguna and SLO High are both in year 2 of doing that. Both those sites found success in it, and so Morro Bay is onboarding that this year as well. I believe their first tutorial session starts, I think it's tomorrow, if I remember right. I know Mr. Scaldi and Mr. Wallace were onboarding students and staff with doing grade level talks today regarding it. All our sites have an advisory program that helps with the social emotional behavior aspect of it. And then, as you know, I'll be bringing the summer school report along with summer experience, I believe in the next meeting. All of our students can participate in summer school to make, earn credit, make up credit during that time. In terms of tier 2, you may have heard of co-taught classes, which is a special ed teacher and a general education teacher. We also have what we call general ed co-taught classes, where you would have both teachers are general education teachers. So Laguna ran that this last year. This is from 24-25, which there were 2 English language arts teachers in the classroom. The focus was on supporting English language learners, long-term English language learners, students within those categories, as well as there's other students mixed in as well. And so that was something I'll show some data a little bit earlier. It was sort of a newer thing to try in terms of ELA support for students. There's also study skills classes at some of our schools. Those courses students are selected based on their need. They can help them focus on organizational skill. Also, credit recovery is another piece of data I'll show in a little bit, utilizing Edgenuity. Not all the students in all the study skills classes do Edgenuity. It is an option for them depending on their need. If they need to make up credit, if they're credit deficient, but those classes also help them with organizational support, academic support, some tutoring based on the classes they have and the needs they have. So that'd be a tier 2. Avid and our next gen programs, which are at all our sites, are our tier 2 intervention supporting those students both in academic or organization and even in culture. Avid's very much about a family and supporting students and getting their post-secondary goals met. We have before, after school, different forms of tutoring at all our sites to support students. It can be Math Cafe at Loams. It can be after school tutoring at our high schools for math lab or language lab or science, different offerings that are available throughout the year. And then, as I said before, and I'll report in a next board meeting, we do have summer school credit recovery for students as well. And the whole summer school stuff I'll report at a later board meeting. But that would be a tier 2 intervention for those students that are credit deficient. As we know, our first threshold for high schools, we want them to graduate high school because it's really hard to do other things after that if they haven't graduated, right? So very important that they get their credits. In terms of tier 3, our Pacific Beach School is a tier 3 intervention. The amount of support that those students receive for the needs they have, we know is intensive. School does a phenomenal job, Mr. Dowler and his staff, of supporting those students with those high needs and getting them to graduate and moving on to their post-secondary goals, college, career, all those sort of things they're doing. And so as we know, that it's a very intensive environment for those students. And then we have our sheltered ELD, we formerly called newcomer program, supporting our students that are newly arrived here learning English and supporting them not only in English but in other academics and culture, adapting and feeling supported in sort of all areas. So those would be examples of tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 MTSS supports in the secondary. In terms of data, wasn't going to give all kinds of data, but wanted to give a few snapshots. So one would be this Laguna co-taught class, and so I'll explain this a little bit. So looking at how do we know if co-taught help? You know, there is if there's 2 adults in the classroom, that's going to be better than 1. Yes, we would hope that would be true. But what is some data to support that? So one of the pieces of data we have is FastBridge. So FastBridge, we are switching to STAR. I'll talk to that in a little bit because we're doing it in secondary as well. But FastBridge is a reading screener. We get Lexile data. So we'll get a Lexile score. They do it 3 times a year. That Lexile score, a range will get them into a particular category. Below basic, basic, proficient, advanced, kind of like what we used to do with state testing. Now it's met, exceeded, those sort of things, but same sort of advanced, proficient, basic, below basic as your marks based on a particular, if you get a certain Lexile score, right? And so if we break down the data, what we can see is if we look at those co-taught courses, so there was co-taught courses, there was a section, 2 sections, 2 periods in 7th grade and 1 period in 8th grade at Laguna, and we looked at how did those students do in their growth on FastBridge. If we look at how many gained into proficient or advanced versus the non-co-taught English classes in 7th and 8th, we see 18 percentage points growth. So not 18%, but 18 percentage points. So look at what percent of students were proficient advanced in the fall versus what percentage of students were proficient advanced in the spring. We see an 18 percentage point growth in the co-taught versus a 7% growth in the non-co-taught. And so it is a data point to show that we are getting success. And as a side note, looking at the breakdown of those co-taught courses had more students proportionally that were below basic or basic. And that was the point. They're targeted interventions, so they're going to have more students that have a higher need, yet still made significant growth. So it's great. So that's a snapshot of data in terms of that co-taught course in English Language Arts, so 2 English Language Arts teachers in there. Another thing we look at, super important in high school, are credits, because you need credits to graduate. So looking at how much credit recovery was it. This is not including summer school, because I'll report that separately, right? I do a whole summer school presentation, I believe it's next board meeting, as I said. This is just during the school year in those study skills courses utilizing Edgenuity. And so some things to know about Edgenuity, we have policy and expectations for our high schools and how they view it. So Edgenuity is an online credit recovery course. And so there are guidelines that our schools follow in terms of how much credit students can earn. There's limitations, no more than 10 credits per year. They can use it for credit recovery. So if they failed a course, obviously we want them to get a higher grade so they can get that credit. If they got a D, that is not A through G eligible. So if they want to redo that, they can do that as well to get a C. There are some rules and parameters around that. But looking at how it's used, You can see the breakdown last year. Again, this is not including summer school, but just during the school year, the number of students that participated in taking one or more courses, as well as in the total number of credits. Question might be asking, well, Morro Bay is a little under half the size of SLO High. Why is there more students? SLO High, as we know, has the trimester system. Trimester system allows for another opportunity to take course because there's 3 instead of 2 that you would have in a semester system, right? So the students in a trimester system have a third more opportunities to make up credit. So you see less use there, as well as I believe more SLO high school students participate in summer school as well. We have a large offering at the campus in the summer. So a couple data points for some of our interventions at the high school level, and then looking at next steps. So one thing is we talked about, as Ms. Shepard and Ms. Maitri talked about the STAR assessment, we'll also be utilizing the STAR assessment for English and math. So in English, we were using FastBridge before. It will be very nice that we will have a K-12 all using the same assessment, and now we'll start talking really apples to apples and be able to track that data across all our years and cohorts. So that'll be happening, as well as the way that STAR works in that program and how it integrates in the Parsec. Now we can look at data in a much more meaningful way, and STAR is a much more, I'd say, teacher-friendly engagement kind of interface as teachers are looking at data, and that'll be some of the steps we'll be doing, both myself and Mr. James, in working with our math and English teachers this year. It'll be 3 assessments during the year, similar to what we did with FastBridge, but then start building and really looking at data and what are we doing with that data to support students. So that's sort of the data tracking improvements. And then this is definitely a new thing of having STAR in math. We have not had that sort of math assessment before, so we will be starting that in the middle schools this year and be able to look and see with STAR in both ELA and math. Another extra piece that FastBridge did not do is it allows for a strong correlation to success in CASP. And so it'll show how well a student will likely do on their CASP test based on their STAR score, and we did not have that before. So that'll be a great support as well and provide us some additional data in preparing our students as they get ready for the CASP assessment in the spring. So that's a new piece too. So we'll be onboarding and working with our staff and supporting, rolling those out. In fact, the first STAR assessment window opened yesterday, if I remember right, across the district. So it'll be nice that we'll all be talking about the same data as we do that. And then continuing, we have our middle schools are participating in the San Luis County Office of Ed SCB cohorts. So Laguna did it this last year, so they'll be in year 2 starting this year. Loams will be starting this year, so they'll be in year 1. And as Ms. Shepard explained, when they get into year 2 is when they can start utilizing that SWIS data, really show basically behavioral data and how students are doing to better support them and help be more proactive than reactive, or proactive than reactive. And so Laguna will be starting to utilize SWIS this year, since they'll be in year 2. And then moving on to Sabres.
Good evening, Janet Gould, your Executive Director of Student Support Services. And I just have to follow up on the previous slide about the LAMS implementation. I had the privilege of being at Laguna on their first day, and they were every single English class, they were all talking about what does it look like to be safe, to be responsible, to be respectful on campus, on all the different areas of campus. They were taking all of the kids around tours around the school, showing what that looked like. They just had a great rollout with the entire staff and then the entire student body on ways we are as humans on a campus, and it was really exciting to see and be a part of. I'm going to talk to you just a little bit about SABRES, which is our social emotional behavioral screener. This we've been doing for, I believe, about 4 years, and there's a component where teachers in 2nd through 8th grade previously have done once a year, and then we have our students take this screener 2 or 3 times a year. And what we saw is from the fall 2024 implementation, we had 121 students score in the high risk category. And by spring of 25, that number was down to 69. So a good improvement. One of the things that we do is our school teams analyze the data from the assessment or from the screener and ensure that every student who scores at high risk is checked in with and has an opportunity to participate in an intervention to offer additional support. We review trends with our staff, and one of the areas that we're going in this year is right now we're able to look at our students' perception between fall and spring, and we've built into staff development meetings this year doing a second administration for our teachers. So our teachers in 2nd through 8th grade are looking at our students twice through the year, and we're able to look at the perceptions of our teachers as well and how that changes as students have time to be in our classrooms. When we think of tiers of intervention or multi-tier systems of supports through elementary, middle, and high school from the social, emotional, behavioral lens, in our elementary, we really look at our culture and climate week. So things that we're doing at the elementary level for all of our students. Also at the elementary level, our classroom, we had 956 classroom lessons delivered by our counselors this past year. In middle school, there were 77 classroom lessons, but 752 academic planning sessions. And then in high school, again, that focused on some culture and climate weeks, classroom lessons, and over 3,700 academic planning sessions with our students. Things that are happening across our campuses with all students. When we get into the sum and the tier 2, we look at our elementary level, small groups that our counselors are providing across our elementary schools. And we had 152 small groups last year. And we had 565 students who were served in those 152 groups. For our prevention and early intervention, or PEI counselors at our middle school, they ran 12 small groups. And then at our wellness centers, which we have at both Morro Bay and SLO High School, we had 710 students access the wellness center over some point in the year. And then we had over 1,300 individual sessions with our SEL counselors at the high school and students. Then we look at students just in need of additional levels of support. And at our elementary level, we had 269 students who met with their school counselor more than 10 times throughout the year. And we had 58 students who worked with community counseling, who we have contracted with to provide MFT or MFT training, which was on ongoing therapeutic support for students. We had 35 students through County Behavioral Health that we're seeing at the middle school, and 91 students between both of our secondary schools. We also utilized Daybreak Health. I have the number here for high school, but we did also have students in middle school access Daybreak Health, and at elementary school, it is more of a family opportunity. So our families are able to get family support, family counseling through Daybreak Health. With Daybreak Health, we're considered kind of their rockstar school district. We have had more families reach out and then fully complete intake process and get started with services than any of the other districts that they're working with. So we're excited about that level of support to be able to offer to our families and continuing Daybreak again this year. And then next steps for our MTSS related to social, emotional, behavioral. We've been working with Parsec. We're excited to have Parsec in creating a counseling dashboard so that we can really drill down further into the students that we're serving and kind of pull those groups aside and look at what is attendance looking like, what are their grades looking like, what is the progress that we're seeing for our students that we are supporting in Tier 2 and 3 counseling services. And at this point, we really haven't had a efficient way to put all that data together and make it happen. So Angela Riles has been working closely with Parsec to get that dashboard built out. I talked about the progress smarting for Sabres, and you know, Stephanie's department and mine have worked really closely over the last couple of years to be aligned in the work that we're doing related to MTSS, and that's something that we greatly value and want to continue to focus on this year. Okay, and that's our presentation.
Okay, I'll open it up for questions. Let's see. Mrs. Walton, oh, I guess I shall go to the public first. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak to this item? I hope I was yelling, because now I'm going to the public. Is there anyone who'd like to speak to this item? Okay, seeing no one, I'll bring it back to the board. Mr. Clausen, followed by Mr. Buckman, followed by Mr. Banfield, followed by Mrs. Baltadonna.
Thanks. Thanks for the presentation. That was really thorough and great presentation. I have a few questions. The first is on the elementary level. How do you expect the migration from FastBridge to STAR might impact the number of students nominated for support? Will that dramatically change the number of Tier 2 students?
So the screening tool is changing, but what happens with that data is not changing. So currently when a student is screened with risk, they go, our SLCUSD, as we call them, go through a deep dive process. And that deep dive has remained the same for our 2nd through 6th graders. We start at a comprehension level, and then we start to drill down at a vocabulary level, and then we go to a phonics level, followed by a phonological awareness level. So wherever they to see where we need to put groups together in what skill set. So even if more bubble up or less bubble up, the process that they'll go to be put into those groups is going to remain the same.
Okay, thank you.
Does that?
Yeah, no, that's perfect. My second question is, my observation is the elementary process is pretty structured in terms of the results of the testing are going to lead to specific actions, and the SABRE also seems pretty structured. In contrast, it seems like the secondary program, while we're doing STAR testing, a lot of the programs that were discussed there are either demographically targeted or opt-in programs. So I guess my question is, at the secondary level, how do we ensure everyone that needs support gets mapped into those Tier 2 and Tier 3 support mechanisms?
Yeah, good question. I would say it's still based on data. I mean, some of it can include, if you're looking at high school, definitely credits are important, right? In elementary, there are credits. So grades start becoming a data point that include we want students to pass so they get credits, right? And then if you're looking at STAR, it's Lexile level, which is same as FastBridge, so that data will still be the same. The math, STAR math in middle school will be new data points that we'll have to then inform teachers. It looks different in secondary in terms of, it's not, you have students for say 50 or 55 minutes, so the pull out or something like that is different, but that'll be part of the work that we need to do is develop, okay, so what are our teachers doing to support students that need a Tier 2 intervention? And so that can be recommending for tutoring. It can be, they can still do small group instruction, but it'll look different than it would in elementary. So I'd say it's, secondary has more options and more variety. So some of the implementation is going to be broader or have more variety than you would at an elementary. We don't have SLCUSD doing pullouts, but there are other things we can do in terms of referrals to tutoring, study skills, other classes that students can be recommended for.
So how do we go about the selection of which secondary programs are considered MTSS and which ones are not? And how does that overlap with LCAP funding and other related topics? I mean,
yeah, so it would be on the courses. So if we're supporting after school tutoring, that would be like teacher hourly we could do for that. If it's supporting FTE for co-taught sections, that's addressed in the LCAP. That would be intervention. So students are selected by, principals work with their administrative and counseling teams to select students based on academic achievement, CAP scores, we'll have STAR data that are coming on board. So typically it's multiple measures that we're looking at to support students. And then, yeah, if it's English language learners, if it's SED, looking at those breakdowns as well.
Okay,
does that answer your question?
Yeah, and then I have one final question, then I'll share the mic.
Sure.
How long have we considered Pacific Beach to be a Tier 3 MTSS program? I guess I hadn't perceived it that way. Is that new? Is that just?
I would say the very nature of the program makes it a tier 3.
It's always been a tier 3.
So we just haven't called it that, but it's always been that.
No, that's great. I
If that makes
didn't know if that
sense.
was a new classification or just something that we're clarifying or.
What we've done is we've intentionally created a multi-tiered system of support throughout our district within the LCAP and the SIPSAs, and now we're simply calling it those things within that system that we hadn't previously done.
So you're bringing structure to things that already exist.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you very
Sort
much.
of formatting or
that's
nomenclature.
Thanks.
Thank you. So first of all, congratulations. There's just you're meeting target levels. You're doing great work and just such great work for kids. This is probably a question that everybody's expecting, but it comes up every once in a while for me. It's like we seem to change our assessments on a regular basis. And for me, in my world, that means it's really hard to track improvement because we're always changing the assessment tool. And so I'm just, I guess, at the point where it's, what makes us change assessment tools so often? I don't know how else to ask the question because.
Well, I'll give it a shot and then I'll let Stephanie and Lisa give it a shot. For me, the best, because Mr. Bachman, I've been along that journey with you, and we're in search of clarity. And some of these screener tools that are coming out, some of them work better than others. And remember, they're screeners. The common assessment that we use in our district grades 3 through 12 or 3 through 11 hasn't changed. That's our CASP results. So that is our common denominator. With our new addition of our MTSS system, which is becoming more and more refined, as you can see in this presentation, the STAR screener, DIBBLES, all become ways in which we can better understand what kids need earlier and earlier. And so from my perspective, there's dozens and dozens of screeners out there. We're introducing these screeners after our staff looks and examines them, and we work with our teachers and say, you know what, this one seems to work much better than that. And that's my take on it. It's nothing. It's frustrating to not have consistency, especially on cohort analysis, right? But I would argue we are refining our systems and using our people to give us feedback, and then we're being responsive to that feedback to the best of our abilities, and that's why you're seeing some of these screeners change.
So
that's my take.
And I appreciate that, and always looking, how often I go through automobiles, so always looking for the best car. But I'm just wondering if there's somehow a way to make some kind of commitment or just follow through so that we follow a cohort through. So maybe we're using 2 at the same time, or using FastBridge and STAR, or whatever we were using 4 years ago, or I just don't know how we even know that we're using a better one.
Right.
And that's what I was going to say.
FastBridge was like FastBridge was the be all and end all when it was introduced in the state of California.
It served us
Albany
well for a
Unified.
while.
Okay.
Yeah. It sounds like you're asking why. Why are we making this switch? And I can give 2 key points. STAR, the data that we are going to be receiving and the various reporting mechanisms that are available within STAR itself allows us to provide teachers with information and data upon which they can act and use that to better inform their instruction. This was a missing piece within FastBridge for us. And so within STAR, we have that piece. There's also a CASP predictor, within STAR that is a key component for us so that we can act sooner. If we see kiddos are missing certain skills, we can act on those, and we can even do intervention groups that are those just-in-time intervention groups within the classroom, and be more responsive to what our students' needs are. So I would say those are two key selling points for us with STAR that were absent within FastBridge.
So I thought Star had died away like in 2020 or 2000. So we got a different, this star was up here in this sky, and this is in the night sky.
We're looking
right?
at different stars.
Okay.
Yes, you're talking about the state testing.
That's
and
right.
This is STAR that is a suite of assessments through Renaissance. Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah, the stars don't line up.
One's burned out, one's a black hole.
I had a question. We were talking about elementary next steps behavior and SWIS, school-wide information systems. How is that? What is it? And how is it implemented?
So it stands for School-Wide Information Systems. And I apologize. Can you repeat your question? You want to know what is it? What is it? So what it does, it allows any staff member on campus to be able to report repeated unexpected behaviors. So let's say that Dan was running through the boardroom, and I, as the teacher, had asked Dan multiple times and redirected him and said, Dan, our expectation right now is for you to sit down. And I did that in 3 different ways. One of them might be proximity. One of them might be a verbal redirect, and another one might be restating the expectations to him. So let's say I did that 3 times. When he doesn't respond appropriately by the 3rd time, that's what we would call a minor misbehavior. We also have a category of major misbehaviors, and that might be physical aggression with intent to harm towards another individual. So when we see those patterns of behavior starting to emerge, what we do within SWIS is we try to identify what is that student's motivation. We're asking, why are they doing that? And why do they keep going and doing these same repeated things? Is it adult attention seeking? Is it peer attention seeking? Is it to obtain an item? Is it to escape or avoid something? And so what SWIS does is it allows us to examine those patterns of behavior for students and see kind of who's rising up on our data sheets that we need to respond to. So if you're starting to see that this is a new behavior for Dan, and it's happening in music, and it's happening out at PE, and it's happening in the classroom, we're going to be asking ourselves, what's going on with Dan? And have a conversation with him, have a conversation with his family. There might be something going on at home that we don't know about, but it allows us to start looking at what kids are telling us, because behavior is communication. Does that give you enough of an explanation?
Ms. Shepherd, can I add one more thing, Rob? SWIS can be used for, at a school level, you can collect that data from all the places students are having challenging behaviors. And if we find out that Dan is one of 15 children running in the cafeteria, that helps us as leaders of our building both reassign staff to support the area. So on a given, are most of the challenging behaviors from our students coming in the library? Are they coming in the media lab? Are they coming on the playground? And that tells me where I need to get more adults to help students behave effectively by tracking that data. It also allows us, oh, I lost my thought, but you can help, you can then reteach certain behaviors. So at the beginning of the year, like Laguna did an excellent job teaching the new expectations for students in the school. This is how you walk in the hallway. This is how you use the bathroom appropriately. But if in the middle of October, suddenly many students are getting those referrals in SWIS related to cafeteria behaviors, you can use one of your advisory periods to reteach the behaviors of how to act in the cafeteria to all of the students. So you shift your behavior instruction to being proactive rather than always just disciplining and being reactive to students.
Who collects the data How is it maintained and who uses it?
So SWIS is an electronic system that houses the data, and then it allows us to create graphs and see what's happening within the playground. How many referrals or unexpected behaviors do we have in certain locations across the school? We can drill down. Is it a certain grade level that's struggling? Is this one student who every time they're going out to the playground is having some unexpected behavior and trouble? So it really allows us to hone in on what's going on at a school site.
Okay, who is us? You were saying it allows us. Who is the us?
Our sites have their SEB teams, the social, emotional, behavioral teams that are working with the County Office of Education. And so within those teams, and they all have slightly different names that they have donned for themselves, but some of them call themselves their MTSS team, some of them call it their PBIS team. Some of them are doing this work within their leadership team. So it varies a little bit from site to site. They've catered it to their own site needs, but there is a group of adults that are staff members that examine this data at least on a monthly basis. And then we're also working to share this data out whole staff this year at elementary, if at 3, if not 4 different times throughout the year, so that the broader staff are also looking at the data to hear and see what's happening.
Okay, all right. Now I have a second question, and it may relate to this. We were talking about sabers, and let's see if I can get that one slide back up. Wait, I just missed it. No, it's right here. It was the sabers, and we were talking about all students scoring high risk, receive a check, et cetera, and then there was a bullet about third way down. It says trends are reviewed with staff. What do we mean by trends?
So we're looking at how our students are doing by grade level. We're looking at how our students are doing at the beginning of the year, and what we're seeing. Is there a certain grade level where we have more kids who are showing at some risk or high risk? But we're looking at the data, and then looking at what it looks like across the different grade levels in the school, and then taking action on it.
What does that review look like when we say it's reviewed with the staff? How does that happen?
At our staff development meetings. So like at the elementary, it tends to be more at the staff development meetings. At the secondary level, it tends to be more with their care teams. So it's their counselors, their school psychologists, administrators, nurse, county behavioral health people are all together looking at the data and then making decisions on how to support students.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you all for the presentation. It was really helpful. I just have one question, I think, and I heard that STAR data integrates with Parsec, which is great. I like the idea of having one system that contains all the data points. And then I heard that there's a counseling dashboard in the works, and I'm wondering, does that also integrate with Parsec? Okay, and I'm getting nodded yeses, so that's good. And so how does the data collected with the SWIS system, is that the right terminology? Did I say that right, SWIS? How does that integrate with Parsec? Does it? And same with Sabers, which I see now allows for progress monitoring. So again, does it all work and integrate with Parsec?
We are working with Parsec, and we're actually having this conversation right now. What the county office is guiding us to do is it does take some time to get our data clean, so to speak. And that is, so what I just described, some individuals at a staff level might inadvertently put in a SWIS form or a referral the first time Dan ran across the boardroom instead of doing that on the third. So what we want to do is give sites time to develop their common threshold for what it means to submit a referral into SWIS. So then when we know that we're integrating into Parsec, we know that we're looking at very clear, clean data and not things that are based upon an individual's judgment, but that is part of the county office's work, especially the first year of rollout with SWIS, is ensuring that we're all on the same page at a site level about when a referral goes in, and that we're all clear in understanding that motivation that we spoke about, as well as entering in all those key details about where did it happen, what was the adult response. So we're getting there is the short answer for you.
No, I appreciate that. And I totally appreciate the process. It's like getting my address book in order before running a mail merge, because then you got to do it all over again if it's not all perfect.
Correct. Yeah, good analogy.
So do we have a goal or a target time frame for when we can say that's when we're going to have that full, complete set of data at Parsec, and we can just, I mean, it's always going to be evolving and tweaking it. I appreciate that, but do we know how long?
So it'll roll into Parsec through Swiss over the course of several years, because right now we have the 3 sites that in talking with the county office, we will probably launch them in Swiss in late spring, and then we need that buffer window next fall for them to calibrate with one another. But the 5 sites, of those 5 sites, we have 2 that are brand new, and we have 3 that utilized Swiss last year, and so those are the ones that we're interested in starting to pull into Parsec first.
Okay, well, I appreciate the effort. I think it's a great goal to work towards, and I think it's going to be a really, it already has been, from what I can tell, a useful tool, but it'll become even more useful. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Pinkerton, the budget update.
All right. I'm going to pull up, actually, we'll pull up the agenda first, kind of walk you through. So you'll notice for the board, again, this is the first of several budget updates the board is going to be receiving over the course of the school year, in particular between now and December. So a lot of work is going to be done. A lot of information is going to go out to our parent groups, to the public, to our community, to the board, because the board is going to be asked to make some critical decisions, probably in the December timeframe, and I'll talk about that timeframe in a minute. Knowing that this is a big topic and something that we want to be transparent about and discuss and bring about, that's why it's very first agenda of the year. Here it is, right? To kind of walk through. So we, the board, as the board knows, the board met back in June and had their annual board retreat where they come up with their goals, your goals, right, for both the superintendent for the school year, as well as this year we, the board also put together a 5-year strategic goals as well. And so coming out of those, 2 in particular that focus directly on the budget were: 1, you asked the superintendent this school year to cure our structural deficit. So to balance our budget. So that was 1, right? Very critical thing that, again, super important for us to get our books in order, ensure that we have a budget that is positive certification, right? That can be signed off by the County Office of Education for us to move forward. You also set a second goal, a 5-year strategic goal of building back up our reserve levels, right? And in particular, unrestricted funds, to where we can get back up to that 10% level of unrestricted funds. Again, if you ask School Services, which is an organization that kind of helps school districts with budgets and financing, they would want us to have 17, 18% reserve levels. But for our board, over the years, the board has set kind of a 10% reserve level of unrestricted funds. So those are the 2 kind of key goal areas that, again, we're focused on to help the board give you the information you need to make those decisions coming forward. You'll see in the budget update itself that's on this agenda item, very lengthy. So you're going to see I'm going to try to share that information, all of the information, try as much as I can to do it in kind of a layman's terms. So I'm not using a lot of acronyms or words that somebody in the public or parents wouldn't necessarily know. That's easier said than done. I will tell you, because I live this every single day. You live this every single day, the superintendent. So we get used to these terms and concepts, and we've been talking about this for 16 years that I've worked here. We've been talking about the budget and issues like this in Diablo Canyon, those types of things. So it's hard sometimes to kind of step back and, okay, you know, we're so familiar with this. What are some things we can do to try to make this a little easier for the public to comprehend and know? So, so I've put together a facts document that I'm going to be reviewing right now with the board and the public. Again, if there are things, I would ask both the public as well as the board, if there are things that you think we should add to this document, let me know. Right? This is a work in progress, a draft. We're gonna set up a budget website on our school district website that just has all the budget information and shares these details, and we'll include these facts. All of this information will be going out in our first parent newsletter this coming Friday, along with our staff newsletter. Again, we want to update people, not to scare them, not to go, but we want to be transparent. We want to share the information so that people know what's happening, why we're discussing these items, and provide more details as we move forward in this process. So the first thing I'll share in this information that's on the agenda is really a chart that reviews the budget timeline. And I think it's important for people to understand how this budget timeline works for a school district. The board, and again, for us, I'm updating the board right now in August. In September, as I talked about earlier, we'll do what's called unaudited actuals, where we will share publicly the exact, to the penny, what our revenues were and what our expenditures were for the 24-25 school year. And the basis of that, the best part of that document is that then tells us how much money do we still have in the bank? What are our reserve levels? What will happen from knowing that, right? We will adjust our 10-year projection at that time. So we'll have hopefully a more accurate picture of what our revenues, our expenditures are. And then from there, we go to really November, December is first interim, where we do our first budget update for the board of the budget that you passed last June. And this is the time where we finally kind of know our personnel costs at a much better level. Positions have been put in. In October, new health plans are decided. The cost of those plans, all of that is then put in into our budget information, and we share that information with the board at that first interim conversation. That's important because then we adjust the 10-year budget again. 85 to 90% of our budget is people. So it's critical that we get that HR step correct so that we know the cost of our personnel, right? November 30th, by November 30th, we normally receive our property tax estimate for the current year that we're in. So that's when we know, is it 3%? Is it 3.5%? Is it 5%? What are our property taxes going to be, which is the main basis of our revenue in the school district, okay? This is the last year of depreciation of the Diablo Canyon nuclear power plant. So I'm expecting this will hopefully, I'm hoping that this will be the last year that our unitary tax will go down, because it's been going down for the past 7 years in the amounts, that this will be the last year that that's established. Because what's happened is we have had large property tax increases in our area, within our district, over the past 5-6 years with cost of housing, more building, those types of things. But because of the depreciation in unitary tax, we're not realizing those 6% increases, 7% increases, right? Because unitary tax is dropping, that brings it down to the 3.5 projection, 4%. And that's substantial dollars when you're talking about $140 million. 1%, 2% of $140 million it's a lot of money, right? Especially when we talk about those are the types of dollars we're looking at having to reduce. So that will be a critical time, that November 30th timeline, to see where our property taxes fall. Some key things happen. Again, I'm going to talk about the budget timeline, but I'll come back. So again, we do a second interim for the board in March. again, the first reading of the budget for the 26-27 school year happens in May, and then the board adopts the budget in June. Again, not knowing what the true revenue sources are going to be until the following November, right? 6 months later, do you actually know what our revenue sources are going to be? So I think it's important for the public to understand that there's a little bit of nuance in terms of making decisions, setting the budget, using projections, but we really don't know for sure, right, until you're halfway through the year of the budget of the school year, right? Until you're having to make decisions the June before. Now, when we look at this timeline, and especially for this year, the critical time is really going to most likely be, and again, Dr. Prater is going to be sharing kind of a budget communication strategy plan, how we're moving forward, right? Budget reduction committee, those types of things. We'll be talking about that more with the board, but really trying to make this decision for the 26-27 school year by December. And why December? Because there's a timeline for laying off employees, which is March 15th. So we have to let people know what we're doing. We have to notify them during those January and February months, so that then people can understand in March, make reductions, so that then we can plan accordingly. Now, if the budget is better, if we do receive state funding, something happens, we can always add positions back by June when the board adopts the budget. But what we can't do is make those decisions after that March date. So it's tough. And those are timelines that the state has put in. It used to only be for certificated staff, but 2 years ago, they also made it the same date for classified staff. So there used to be kind of a summer window where you could do, which again is horrible for employees. In some ways, it's better just to let people know, right, as it goes through. These critical points, unaudited actuals, property taxes, will be very critical this year because, again, we only want to reduce what we have to. We don't want to make reductions that are unnecessary. As we discussed at that board study session, we are looking at doing some kind of hiring freeze currently. So as positions come open, are there ways that we can collapse those jobs or not rehire to save money so that means less reductions that we'll have to make in December. And you're basically protecting the staff that is currently here, right? So we are doing that currently. That does not mean that anyone who leaves, we're not replacing that position. We have nurse openings right now. We have paraeducator openings right now. So there are positions we have to fill. We don't have that choice. But every time there's an open position, we sit down as a cabinet group, we meet, we talk with our principals of the lead. Is there a way to work this out so that, again, that's one less individual that has to be laid off in March. So again, that's the timeline, budget timeline that I do think it's important for people to understand because, again, the board is making decisions that they really don't know for sure kind of where we're at until 6 months later. So again, this facts document, my goal is to try to lay it out as easy as possible for people to kind of understand. Again, knowing that most unitary tax, they don't understand. Basic aid, school district, like those are things that are difficult that we just take for granted, as we go through. But hopefully some of this helps to start that process of educating our public, educating our teachers, and all of us, right, as we move through this. So again, to start, the beginning of this document talks a little bit about kind of where we're at as the school district. As the board knows, the board passed a budget last June that had about a $1.4 million deficit at the time. But out of a $140 million budget, it was still relatively small. There was potential of us receiving more state one-time funds this summer. So we moved on, and again, the board made close to $5 million in reductions last year to get us to that point where we were near balanced for the school year. After that happened, we did, the board did vote for our employees to get a 1% increase right? So that added to that amount in terms of a deficit level. But we also found out this summer that we did receive state funding. So $2.2 million in a one-time grant from the state, and then another $200,000 from another grant that we hope is ongoing. We were still kind of waiting to hear, but we're hoping that second learning recovery block grant is something that we'll continue to receive as an income moving forward.
Excuse me, are those grants restricted or unrestricted funds?
So they come across as restricted, but they have a caveat written in them that the board can choose to use it as they wish. So they're restricted. Katie has to follow them. You have to chart, how you spend them, those types of things. But it really is up to the board. You have the flexibility in terms of using those funds. So it's kind of it's a weird caveat. So again, the good news with that is that really the board balanced the budget for the school year. So we're in a good place to start, right? Start the school year. And so I think that's a positive thing, right? That we've started that. What we know, and it starts right here as we go through this, right? So why do we have a budget? Why are we facing a budget shortfall still if we made these reductions? Okay, so there are 4 reasons, and I outline them in this document. So the first one is, again, as I've discussed, the loss of unitary tax. So the school district used to receive almost $11 million in unitary tax back in 16-17. That has been reduced now to this year, or last year I should say, $3,700,000. So a reduction of $7 million. Okay. Now we don't have a $7 million structural deficit. That is because our property tax values have gone up over the years. We have been fortunate in that property tax values have made up for some of that deficit. But know that this is the last year of SB 1090, which is $4.6 million. So this is the last year we're receiving that. And we'll see what happens in terms of the depreciation of the plant with our property tax values in November. But that depreciation, that last value, that 4.6, is basically what our structural deficit is today. That makes up most of it. Rob.
I just want to make sure that that everybody who even is listening understands this, that reduction in unitary tax came about because PG&E began to devalue the plant.
Yes.
Because they originally were going to have the plant closed by the end of this year. Yes. Correct?
Correct.
But that plant is not closing now. In fact, it's extended to
2030.
At least 2030 and probably beyond. Yet, for some reason, and the public needs to know this, PG&E has continued to devalue the plant, even though the plant is fully operational.
So we'll talk a little bit about that in a minute more.
Okay.
As we proceed. But yes, you are correct.
Now I have one other related question,
yes.
And I don't want to slow up your presentation. Property taxes. Why does it always seem like it's a guessing game? In other words, property taxes should be a constant, shouldn't they? I don't understand. Can you explain real quickly why we're seeing if it's going to be at 3% or 3.1% or 5%? Why does that happen?
So it's really the county assessor's office that assesses properties. Properties change hands. They buy, they sell. You might sell a property that you're currently paying. You bought it for $200,000. You sell it for $1 million. So then the county, the new person who comes in, they have to change that. So they don't have all that information. Or new houses sell. Those are new property taxes come in. So the county doesn't have all of that assessor's information until they do the property tax bills and send those out, which is in November. So that's when we find out. And they adjust it. Just so you know, we get it then, we kind of know, and we're normally pretty firm what our property taxes are going to be, but they do update us in the spring And sometimes that can go up or down 100,000, 200,000. You know, people don't pay they don't pay their taxes or things like that, right? But that November is kind of when that's when we get that last final. They give us an estimate over the summer, but it can be completely off.
And development. New
Oh,
homes.
definitely, yeah, new homes
Add
that
to
sell
it.
when they come on, those types of things. And again, the county has a hard time sometimes even catching up with new homes and making people pay property tax. So I know people that have bought new homes and haven't got a property tax bill for a year. So it's just that process of getting those on the rolls. So Mr. Banfield made a great point, and that is so they did pass a law, SB 846, right, which kept the plan open for an additional 5 years. Unfortunately, when they did that, nobody considered the groups like San Luis Coastal and the county and other groups, right, that benefit from the unitary tax. So we know SB 1090 was running out, but nothing for the other years, right? So last year, 25, 26, that plant's going to be open for another 4 years without any type of compensation, anything, unitary tax structure, continued payments of SB 1090, those types of things. So again, it's hard for us when we complain because we're losing unitary tax because Diablo Canyon's depreciating and it's shutting down, right? But yet, Mr. Pinkerton, the plan is open, right? So it's kind of a difficult, people to comprehend that aspect of it. So I'm going to talk a little bit about later kind of what we're trying to do to alleviate that and bring some of that back.
Mr. Pinkerton,
Yeah.
I'd like to understand they are depreciating the value of the plant for purposes of unitary tax right down to the ground.
Yes.
Yet they are putting an extraordinary amount of money into modernization of the plant and bringing it up to standard for to continue generating power. So how can that be a zero asset when you're putting that kind of money into it?
So excellent question.
I don't expect you to have a crystal ball.
Yeah,
It just makes no sense.
No, it's an excellent question. I think again you have kind of two sides, PG&E versus the legislator right now, a little bit of a fight. So again, PG and the group that reassesses the plant, the Public Utilities Commission, has said we are waiting to see if there's a long-term agreement to keep Diablo Canyon open, then I think the indications are that the Public Utilities Commission would potentially reassess the plant and maybe unitary tax would come back, potentially. Board of Equalization, excuse me. So that's a goal, hopefully. So again, within the next 6 months, I believe the NRC is supposed to, Nuclear Regulatory Commission is supposed to come out and potentially grant Diablo Canyon a 20-year renewal period. Now, what the legislature does with that, if they, or maybe they already have, but no, okay, well, we can hear from PG&E. So again, mainly just right now is the legislature will not agree to a longer period of time. So at this point, so if they continue to do these 5-year renewals, then the Board of Equalization is like they may not reassess the plan, which means unitary tax goes away. So,
but wouldn't PG&E understand that they're in our backyard, that the risks are borne by our community members and our children, and not feel that they have any obligation to mitigate that by helping to support public education or in any way?
So these are things
that's rhetorical. I'm sorry.
Yes. But these are things we bring up. Absolutely. Mr. Clausen. Sorry.
Yeah, I just want to tack on to what Mrs. Roger was saying and really stress that this community is now the only community in the state of California with an operating nuclear power plant in its backyard. Ours is the only community that, in addition to fire drills and other kinds of safety measures, has to have plans in place for where our children go if there is a problem at a nuclear power plant and what parents are supposed to do. There are many, most of us in this room right now live in zone 1, which is the most dangerous place to live with a nuclear power plant in our backyard. And I think that not taking that into consideration in any way is a huge slap in the face to this community and a disservice and lack of acknowledgement to our students and to what we're trying to do. We appreciate PG&E. We know that they are providing livelihoods for many of our families. I don't deny that in any way. And that they have brought opportunities to this community that we might not otherwise have. So I don't want to dismiss them out of hand, but I think as an enormous corporation, that I would hope, feel some sort of sense of responsibility to the community that is taking this risk. So I just want our families to know that that is not, that we are aware of that and that we are working to try and, as one person, it's hard to understand why if the plant wants to go back to the way it was 10 years ago, why the community can't go back to the way it was 10 years ago and reap the benefits that we realized at that time. So, but it is an ongoing conversation that we are really concerned about and want it to work for everyone, for PG&E, for the community, and for our families and students.
Mr. Clausen?
Mr. Clausen.
Yeah, so I mean, on this general topic, last spring we had a number of discussions with PG&E about not just the unitary tax, but other things they could do outside of that. I think as part of that, we learned that they have at least a $15 million annual budget to make charitable donations to entities throughout the state. And I think we made an appeal to them as the only school district with an operating nuclear plant that they consider a donation to our district. I guess my question is, do you know if we've ever gotten any feedback on any donation that they would make, or are we still kind of at zero there? And is there any potential of that you know of, Mr. Pinkerton?
Well, I think we all are. We did meet with PG&E. We did make the request, and they came out to speak to us at the Los Osos Middle School Library during a board meeting, and they in a very polite way said no. I mean, that's the facts.
Did they say no, or did they say nothing?
Sorry, I heard no.
Okay.
But maybe I just read into it. But you know, we asked is the point. We asked. I also think that you know, following up on that, Ryan and I have met with PG&E numerous times, and had conversations about other mechanisms, other ways to kind of move this forward, and you know, they have expressly told me that this really should be a legislative solution. Now that actually makes sense to me. It does. So I turned around and met with our state legislator directly at the Madonna Inn, the Copper Cafe, and I was told very low likelihood that will happen. So we're caught between a legislative solution and an ongoing operating plant, right? And so for me, I've been encouraged to reframe my thinking on this in that maybe it's not for us as important if it's unitary tax or not, as much as it is some kind of solution that acknowledges that as long as that plan is open, we should receive a contribution, and not get in the weeds of legislative solutions and unitary tax details. I don't think hardly anyone in this room could really explain to you what unitary tax is. I think we've tried. Generally speaking, I understand it. I believe the solution set is to really focus and hone in on a school district, as Mrs. Sheffer mentioned, that has partnered with PG&E for decades. And just as early as 2016, we received up to $10 million consistently in compensation from the power plant, and that helped us weave together one of the finest school districts in the state. And it's important, I think, to acknowledge that SB 1090 was born out of this idea that, and the realization that the plant would actually close. And we accepted that, and we negotiated in fairness with PG&E directly, as well as with Sacramento, and tried our best to be honest brokers, to be diligent, and when we signed that deal, SB 1090, when that was landed, it served us well. And the idea is that it would create a soft landing for us, and not just us, but also the other agencies and cities and our county that rely on those resources. And we accepted it, and we knew, Ryan and I spoke at length about it, that this day would come. However, when SB 846 came out, they left us out of that conversation. They left us out of the conversation. But they can acknowledge that the plant would continue for another 5 years, minimum. So for me, I want to keep it simple and straightforward. What I believe is fair is for every year the plant remains open, we should be compensated. Otherwise, how are we supposed to plan and effectuate you heard the MTSS presentation tonight. That's an expensive program, but it's serving our most vulnerable kids, and it's doing it quite well. So for me, what's at stake is it's not just the Diablo Canyon piece, it's also other things, and Ryan will get to that, but it's part and parcel. We feel in San Luis Coastal that we're being left out of the conversation. We serve nearly 8,000 kids across 4 communities, and we have done it really well for decades in that partnership, in that sacred partnership. And now we're kind of out in the feeling like we're out in no man's land. So I've done my due diligence. I've gone to the state. I spent more time in Sacramento than I care to admit as a superintendent. I have met with PG&E at length. I've tried. I'm working with parent groups. I'm trying to figure out a path forward. We're hiring consultants to help us through this. And at the end of the day, what I'm left with is we should receive fair compensation similar to 2016 for each year the plant remains open. And it's a pittance compared to the big picture. And my hope is that cooler heads will prevail on this, and that will seem like a straightforward and simple resolution to us having to confront a $5 million reduction to our ongoing program. And it just feels, in
2 successive years.
It just feels wrong. And that's my statement.
Well, so you're getting kind of the point of my question. I mean, I think the thing for the public to understand is that we raised this issue last spring. The answer from PG&E was that they can't help us. I think we learned that that's not true. They can. There's budget that exists. They're choosing not to give it to us. And so it's not that they can't, it's that they won't. And this problem can be solved by our neighborhood partner PG&E doing the right thing in our community. And I think the public needs to realize this, because obfuscation about it's not possible, go to Sacramento, have our leadership go, spend all their time with lobbyists instead of kids, is a ridiculous outcome when they can just support us.
Mrs. Baldonado.
Thank you. And I want to thank my colleagues for some really outstanding comments this evening, and Dr. Prater for your recent remarks that you just gave. The only thing I just want to add to that is that the continued operation of the Diablo power plant works because of a workforce. And much of that workforce includes families that are in our district. And we have a superb school system here that's award-winning in every measure that you can look at. It's not perfect, but it's doing quite well. And that's an attraction for someone with AI training, with technical training, with engineering skills to relocate their family to this area to work at PG&E, because they know that their kids are going to be educated to the level that they expect for their children. So we are partners with PG&E. We're serving their families, their employees, and their employees' children. And so I do think that there is, and we're also not in the business of understanding or having to explain the intricacies of tax policy and all of that. We have a responsibility to understand it enough to do our job here, but we're in the business of educating and serving students. And so it really does boil down to a good neighbor issue, a moral issue, and what's the right thing to do. The same way that we are teaching our students to do the right thing. We talked about social emotional learning. It's very similar to that. So I just appreciate the other comments that I've heard, but I just wanted to also draw that one additional connection to the interplay between that massive operation that produces goods for our community, but also a lot of profit, and draw the connection to what we're trying to do and what we are doing in our community for our students.
Thank you. Mr. Unger.
So I used a little AI to ask a question, and the question I asked was, how much daily revenue does the Diablo Canyon nuclear power plant generate from both units? And using Perplexity, the answer is approximately $2.2 million per day. So we're talking about less than 5 days operation for the plant in revenue that could be going to our district, that was coming to our district. And I'm just going to leave that number hanging out there. A work week.
Proceed, Mr. Pinkerton.
And we're just on the first reason, right, for the budget shortfall. So there are 3 others. It's not just unitary tax. There are 3 other things, definitely for the public to understand and know. The second one is, over the past 6-7 years post-COVID, we have received millions of dollars in one-time funds. And with that, we have hired staff. We have hired a lot of personnel, both classified and certificated, to help our kids get back on track, both academically, social emotional learning, counseling supports, behavior supports, lots of things. In fact, we've hired over 173 people when you compare pre-COVID versus post-COVID. And so that is a lot of people. It's a lot of expenditures that goes to it. And moving back to pre-COVID levels is difficult, because once you have those supports in place, once you hear from the MTSS people and they share with you what they're doing and the impact it's having on kids, the thought of taking that away is very difficult. The third reason is the addition of transitional kindergarten. So we have added a grade level program in San Luis Coastal, which is fantastic. It's terrific. In fact, our board feels that early education is so important that You and your strategic initiatives, when I first started working here, started like the first preschool classes within a school district, right? We had three preschools for our most at-risk students across the school district. It was great, fantastic program. Those preschool teachers that were hired were paid as teachers. Not the $10 an hour that you see at the play, but they were teachers, right? Like certificated teachers on the certificated pay scale. Fantastic. That's what we value that. So that growth of that program has been terrific. We're currently at 16 classes, along with 16 aides. The problem is with that growth, it's a problem, it's not a problem. It's a great thing, and we love having our TK kids in our classes, but we receive zero funding. So no dollars come to us for that program. That ELOPE, our before and after school care program, expanded learning opportunities. We provide daycare for parents and for our ELs, our foster homeless youth, our economic disadvantaged students, both before and after school. We receive state dollars for that, right? But for TK, the universal program that the governor has promoted to move forward, he has signed off that basic aid school districts are not included in that funding mechanism, along with small school districts as well, because they're on a separate funding mechanism than the local control funding formula, which funds state-funded schools. So that is another thing that I'll talk about in a little bit that we're continuing to push. And, Dawn Addis, our assembly person, tried to push through a bill last year, right, based on our conversations with her, trying to move forward. And unfortunately, that bill died in appropriations. But it's not lost, something we'll continue to push for. Because it really is something, again, that we have had to, again, go to an AM, PM model for our TK classes. But the state will continue to push and has made it mandatory for us to go to a 10-to-1 adult to student ratio, instructional minutes. So we are going to get an audit finding because of instructional minutes. So these are things, right, that we're trying to provide the service to our families and our kids, but with zero funding sources for that. And then the last one is really rising staff costs. So this board values our employees. We know how hard it is to live here and the cost of living in our area. And we have given substantial pay increases over the past 10, 15 years. We have for our employees. Other school districts have caught up with us the last few years because state funding has increased so much that they have also given. And so that when I first started here, San Luis Coastal was we were substantially higher than most other job types in our area. And now we're very close. In fact, in some ways, like the first few steps of the teacher pay scale, like Lucia Mar is higher than us, right? Top end, we're still higher. But again, that never happened prior. So they have caught up. And so we have, again, the board has approved several raises for employees over the years, and continues to try to make that a priority. But the one thing that people don't see, and our employees don't see, is that the cost of the state teachers' retirement system, STRS, and our classified employees, public employee retirement system, PERS, the governor back kind of when the LCFF was created, I think 2013, basically at that time wrote it in to the law that the school district would be responsible for increases in STRS and PERS rates. So when I first started in my job here as CBO, we paid about 8.3% for a teacher. That is now 19.1%. For a classified employee, it was about 11.7%. Now it's over 27%. And so again, when you see our personnel costs rise, we're spending more on less people, right? So that's the hard part for people. What? Like we already reduced the number of people we have. Well, that's because the people we have remaining are costing more each year. On top of classified, we pay for Social Security as well. So 35%. For every one of our classified employees, right? In terms of, it's a great thing for them long-term retirement, right? It's a beautiful thing to have a public, pension. But for employees, it's not in their check each month. It's not paying rent. It's not paying the gas bill or the food bill. So it's not something that we don't, the district doesn't get credit for the amount of money it puts towards salaries and compensation, even though we talk about it and we preach about it when we go through negotiations, those types of things. So those four things are why we have a structural deficit. It's not because we were willfully spending money and doing things we weren't supposed to do, or no. No, we were trying to do what's best for kids. But those four things attribute to kind of where we are today. So again, this question of, is Diablo Canyon staying open? Can we get the tax revenue back? Well, as we've discussed at length already tonight, we're hopeful that there is some fix to where, again, that if they know the plant is going to stay open, that they extend it and they reassess the plant and unitary tax comes back. Fantastic, right? If the plant shuts down, we totally get it. Like, we're not advocating for the plant to stay open. But while it is open, it seems like what's fair is that those dollars would follow. If that doesn't work, if the unitary tax structure or something isn't going to work because they're using federal funds to fix the plant or do something else, whatever, well, then we should try to come up with a legislative fix, right? Kind of like SB 1090 for all of our community partners that are impacted by this, because it's not just San Luis Coastal. The county of San Luis Obispo is talking about $50 million in cuts. Like they could probably use $5 million in unitary tax, right? So the Avila Harbor District, I mean, there's tons of different groups that receive unitary tax that would benefit from a continuation of, let's say, SB 1090. So either one. Again, why not just go back to pre-COVID staffing levels? I mean, just make just go back to where you were. Well, easier said than done, right? So what's happened is we become accustomed to the level of service we provide our kids. Our families, our parents, they are accustomed to those levels of class size, counseling supports, MTSS supports, all of that, right? I mean, so much so that, I mean, keeping the grass green and no gophers at Los Osos Middle School, right? Like, I mean, this goes on and on in terms of what we expect from our school district. And so just saying, hey, let's just cut all those positions, go back, that it's not that easy, right? Yes, Mr. Banfield.
Well, I think we would all agree that the overall psychology of our society changed with the pandemic.
Sure.
And those supports became vital. And just because the funding stopped, that doesn't mean that the psychology changed back. It's still there. The needs are still there.
Well, what I would tell you too is the expectation of school districts to solve all of societal's issues continues to grow, right? That, I mean, feeding kids, providing mental health supports, right? I mean, on and on, right? So those things, and we love to do it. We would do all of those things in a heartbeat, right? If we had the funding to make it happen. Mr. Pinkerton, didn't we just give you guys $350 million in bond funds? Like, why don't you just use those? Why are we talking about this $5 million deficit? Well, again, bond funds cannot be used for the school district's teachers, administration salaries. It cannot be used for the general running of a school district. It can only be used for facilities. Now, in the long term, that is going to help our general fund, right? Because that's general fund dollars that we don't have to necessarily spend on improving those sites and doing the work that Measure C and D prior to that have given us. But know that those dollars they're separate. It's a totally separate budget. How it's spent, how it's run is completely separate from the school district's general fund budget. Again, why doesn't the district receive TK funding? So we are a basic aid school district, which means that our funding level is higher than what we would receive if we were a state-funded district. So our property taxes are a little bit higher. We've talked about the glass, right? So state-funded districts, property taxes, like let's say Lucia Mar, Tascadero, property taxes fill the glass up about half, and then the state fills it up all the way. Our property taxes fill up the glass all the way and a little over. Now, when I first started here, again, going back in time, that amount that our glass was filled over versus what it was is very close now. So we are no longer like this flush district with tons of extra money, compared to other school districts. And listen, great for those state funded districts. It is great that the LCFF has risen and that they're getting more money per student. That's always something we've always advocated, that all districts should receive the funding level that we have, right? It's not a negative thing, it's a positive thing for them. But know that we're very similar now to our LCFF neighbors in that way. And so because of that, because we're a little over, we do not receive any of that per pupil funding like state funded districts receive. It would be approximately $5 to $6 million in additional revenue if we were a state funded district, if we received the TK funding.
So my understanding is that historically, excuse me, when we look back at the reason for the discrepancies, the differences in our school district funding revenues and other school district revenues in this county, is that that cup level you're talking about. I call it the magic cup, right? Because it's sort of self-fulfilling. But that that each school district has a different level, and those were set back in the 70s.
True.
And that when our level was set, our level was one of the lowest in the county, if not the lowest in the county. I think we were 10th out of 11th or something like that. And all the other districts were receiving more, were funded at a higher level than we were for some reason. And that's one of the other reasons that's kicked us into basic aid status. And I guess my point is that we didn't just get here through Diablo Canyon. We got here because we were originally given a lower figure than everybody else. So it's just, I think it's an interesting historical perspective.
Sure. And that changed with the local control funding formula.
Yes.
Right. So it went to a per pupil for all students across the state. But even with that, school districts that have a high number of EL, foster homeless youth, economically disadvantaged students do receive remarkably more money than do districts who don't. So you'll see a district like Santa Maria that has a lot of students, and again, a lot of need goes along with that. But the amount of money that they receive per pupil is 3 times higher than you would receive at, like, say, a Templeton, a Tuscadero, right? So within those school districts. So it can still vary even with the new system that's established. So again, we're a basic aid school district. If we make more money, why are we even cutting? Why are we even talking about this, right? Well, we've become accustomed to having more. I mean, I will tell you, we're used to having low class sizes. We're used to having, extra supports that they don't necessarily have in other school districts. And so it's difficult, right? For now that we're having to kind of get closer to what those districts look like in terms of funding, we're also getting closer to the types of services that they provide for kids. And so that is a difficult thing, right? Because we expect to do great things for kids and to have those extra supports for them. So Mr. Pinkerton, I've heard, Donald Trump, he's going to cut the Department of Education. We're going to lose all this money. What are we doing about federal funding? And so that I will tell the board at this point, I would recommend that we don't jump on that roller coaster. That we don't, as of now, again, he was going to cut it all. Now it's back. It's going to cut it. So what we know right now is that we're receiving all of our title funds. And I think that should be what our expectation should be for the following year. That we don't cut another $2 million on top of our structural deficit, or I don't think we need to go there. Now, if for some reason that happens in the future and we have to address it, then we will.
Could you explain just a thumbnail sketch what title funds are for people who are unfamiliar?
Yeah, so title funding, there's kind of 4 different areas, but the main one is Title I, which is kind of supplemental funding that the government gives to our school district for students that are disadvantaged. And it goes directly to schools that have a higher percentage of those students at their schools. So it's extra support for, having more academic supports for those kids, tutoring, aids, counseling support, all those types of things.
So when you
That's
say
Title I.
students who are disadvantaged, you're talking about
Economically disadvantaged.
children in poverty,
Yes.
homeless and foster youth.
Yes. So that's Title I, is just those.
Okay.
Title II is some really professional development funds that we receive from it's not a lot of money. Title III goes directly to EL programs. Again, not a lot. So our biggest one where we receive funds is Title I. Title II, III, and IV, they're smaller. I think it was $200,000-$300,000 we receive in those. So not a lot. And again, so Title I would definitely affect our neediest schools in the school district, right? So our schools that have the highest number of students with, SED students or economically disadvantaged students. So that's something that
we always say SED and what have you. It's our
it's our poor students.
Students.
Yes.
The
So they qualify. They
that we
qualify
have.
for free and reduced lunch,
So they meet the federal poverty guidelines.
which is very low, is what I will tell you. If you're trying to live in San Luis Obispo, and you're making at that level, you would have a very difficult time surviving here, right?
And
So
how
yes.
many of our elementary schools are Title I schools, Title I qualifying schools?
6 right now.
6 out of 10?
Out of 10.
Thank you.
Okay. So again, I don't think we should go there yet in terms of federal funds. That whole roller coaster of things. He was going to keep Title I, not. So far, all of it's been reestablished. The political pressure, I think, got to him for that. Now, we'll see what happens with the Department of Education and how that all unfolds and what goes along with that. We do receive funding, some funding, right, for special education services we provide to students, far less than the real actual cost of those services, but something that we receive, so that's good. So we want to, hopefully that will continue. And I think there'll be strong political pressure to continue those programs, right? So I think in terms of for us looking at budget reductions, structural deficit, I don't think we need to, at this point, focus on the roller coaster of potential federal cuts at this point. So again, lastly, okay, Ryan, you've talked about all these different things, reasons why we're getting cut, structural deficit, those types of things. What are we doing to try to increase revenues in the school district? So the fight hasn't ended, just so you know. So we will continue on with our battle, right, for TK, to get TK funding, transitional kindergarten funding for our students. It's what's right and fair. And that will make a substantial difference if we're able to get that funding. So fortunately for us, we do have a supportive assembly person in Ms. Status. And so I hope to see that bill reintroduced. And maybe we can continue to build on that contingency of both basic aid school districts as well as other assembly people and senators to move that forward again. We'll see. Two is to continue working with our lobbyists and our parent groups to push for some solution to the loss of unitary revenue in the school district, whatever that is. We don't care. Legislative solution, reinstitution of unitary tax, whatever it is, right? But as long as that plant runs, we should be receiving something. So that is our push. That is our goal. That's what we're shouting as we move forward. I was on KCBX talking about it. I was, a Tribune article is coming out soon, right? Because they're looking into it as well. So we are trying to publicize as much as we can, right? So that hopefully some solution can come forward. The other thing that has been brought up by parent groups, they've asked me, I've had people ask me in that, what about a parcel tax? So my first inclination when people ask about another taxing people more, right, is kind of, we already have 2 bond measures. We've moved forward. So Measure D, Measure C, people are paying those, right? So those are, to have a third potential tax is something that, again, it's not up to me. It would be something the public would have to decide, right? So if that's something that the board wants to consider, or a parent group wants to consider, because it can come from either side, right? I put some information in here about what that looks like in terms of, how much revenue that would bring to the school district if a parcel tax was able to be passed. It has a high threshold, 2/3, so difficult, right, to pass. That said, there are many districts across the state of California that have passed parcel taxes, right? So if it's something that the public wants to get behind or move forward with, that would be something, again, that could help provide more revenues moving forward. So this is the current state of my budget facts that, again, I will be sharing publicly with what we have, right? Because it's on the board agenda, but it will be in the parent, kind of our parent newsletter on Friday, our staff newsletter Friday. Again, we're going to set up a budget page to have information. I met with all of the principals this morning and walked through this entire presentation with them because they're front lines. They're the front lines. Their people, our parents are asking questions, teachers asking questions. And so they need to understand this knowledge too, right? To be able to, one, dispel rumors and myths, right? Of the reality of why we're doing this and why we have to do it. But those are things that, again, we will continue to build on. So if members of the public, if the board, if there's something else that you feel like we should add to this to provide more clarity to our public, then please let me know and we'll look at doing that.
Thank you for a lengthy and really informative presentation. I think that Mrs. Sheffer has requests to speak to this item.
Thank you. First, I have Ben Lippert and then Eric Daniels.
All right. Well, I'm excited because I was going to talk about unitary tax, and I thought everybody's eyes would glaze over because I was going to talk about equalization and unitary tax and all this stuff. Dr. Prater said that nobody can describe the unitary tax, and I was kind of like, oh, my heart. I'll give you my contact equalization. He is great. He vacations in Morro Bay. I think it's really important that you get the accuracy right here, and I think that it's really easy to confuse unitary tax with the SB 1090 payments, with CPUC, with the legislature, and we need to be very careful with the way we're talking because PG&E is going to come up in here and tell you that's impossible. That doesn't make sense. This is wrong. You need to be accurate in the way you're talking about this. I'm happy to go through that kind of stuff, but since we're talking about PG&E, let's do that instead. $1.3 billion. That's the amount of power generated by Diablo Canyon last year. $360 million. That's what they get from the state to keep their employees at Diablo Canyon. That's taxpayer money, ratepayer money. They're going to come up here and say, the CPUC won't let us give you money from ratepayers. They're going to be right. CPUC said that. We had a community impact mitigation fund. That's the SB 1090 money. That's community impact mitigation fund. Unitary tax is not a part of that. Unitary tax is set by equalization. I'm happy to talk to anybody about state assessed properties. I'm happy to talk to you about the handbook that they give their auditors. What we're talking about is a partner in PG&E that's been here since the beginning that impacts our community. And if you're in a room with them, you're gonna need to know exactly what you're talking about. And you have parents that have been doing this. I've been steeped in this for months, and I'll talk to anybody about it. I talk to people on the street about it. I talk to my wife about it. I talk to my friends about it. Know what you're talking about when you're in the room with them. They have made record profits. They talk about loving the community. They started this plant. They tout how much money comes to the county, to the school board from Diablo Canyon. Mr. Pinker's right. I'm not even going to get into depreciation. They owe this community the same way that we owe them, and it's been a partnership from the beginning. It needs to be that continuing. Anyone you talk to I only have 20 seconds. Anyone you talk to about the plant staying open is saying, why don't we keep getting that money? They're going to say, well, SB 846, it has to go to the legislature, all this other stuff. We weren't in the room. The county wasn't in the room. They were in the room. It's very clear that if the plant is staying open, that community impact mitigation fund should continue. And I know it wasn't 846, but do the right thing here.
Okay, I have Eric Daniels followed by Phil Angel.
Hello, Eric Daniels with PG&E. I'm looking to tell you that he's wrong. He's right. You're right. We are part of the community. That's all correct. And we want to be in the room. We've been in the room. We want to continue to be in the room. We're partners. We want to try to solve this with you. This is not something that's the company against you in the school district or the parents or the families. We care. The students in your school are our employees as children, many of them. And we care as well. So we want to try to find a solution that we can all work with. And we've made that clear with Dr. Prater and with the staff, and as well as with you. And I'm happy to meet with you as we go forward. I know my colleagues have met with you last year or in February when I was out of the area at the time that this all came down. But I'm happy to follow up with you as we move forward here and meet individually with you to discuss these matters so that we can find a solution together. Excuse me. I'm not going to go through the whole statement that I had prepared. You've heard it before. It's a little bit of the history that you've already heard, how we came together, how we found the solution for the mitigation fund, how SB 1090 was born, and how AB 846 came about when it was decided that the plant couldn't stay, I'm not going to do this, how the plant couldn't stay open or had to stay open. That wasn't something that PG&E brought to the governor or brought to the legislature. That was the legislature, or rather the governor, asking us to stay open. We're kind of caught in the same place you are. The legislature, did not include the unitary tax extension for these 5 years. Mr. Pinkerton mentioned the 20-year, 5-year, what is the difference? The 20-year is the NRC license to run the reactors. That's the only length of time they give you. The state, though, controls the plant through a myriad of different permits, using the water from the ocean, etc. And through that, they can control us for the 5-year duration or any other duration they choose that they want to do. So don't think that we have a 20-year extension to run the plant. We don't. We'll have a 20-year license that we could run the plant on if the state lets us do that. Okay? And so, as we've talked about, this first 5-year extension will go to 2030. Didn't include the unitary tax. We all know in this room that there's not going to be enough energy in 2030 for the plant to close. I think that's a given. Everybody seems to agree with that. I'm not talking out of turn. So I believe that there's going to be another effort to try to do a legislative fix to move another extension. We don't know what that extension will look like. Nothing's been put in paper yet. And I talked to Dr. Prater and others, and he mentions he's spoken to the legislature already, but you have to continue to do that. Your anger and your frustration, I hear it, I understand it, but it's misplaced.
I'm sorry, sir, your time is up.
Well, would you care to have any more comment from me on this? Just a second or two.
Dr. Prater, we hold to a strict 3 minutes, although this is certainly educational for us.
If the board would like to make that exception,
it'll just be a couple more seconds.
I would feel it's important to hear him.
I'd love a few more seconds, if it's okay.
Okay.
The last comment I'd
So
like to make.
those in favor of extending this comment, raise your hands.
For 20 seconds?
Yeah, that's all. Less than that.
20 seconds?
20 seconds.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks. I just want to finish up with this. Your frustration is a little misplaced having it come at PG&E. We can't solve it. We don't have the solution. This is a legislative fix. I know you don't want to hear that, But that is the fix, and we want to work with you to try to find that fix. We're committed to doing that, and we want to continue to try to find that fix as we move forward into the future. Thank you.
Bill Angel.
Good evening again. I really appreciate the thoroughness of the board document that was prepared by Mr. Pinkerton. I was able to look through that on a Friday night. It was very informative. I sent that same document to most of our members. Very thorough. I wanted to talk about Saturday though. It is August. Two things are certain. School is starting, and for 3 minutes on Saturday, there's going to be an alarm sounding. And it's an alarm that comes with having a nuclear power plant in our backyard. We all get to hear that alarm. And when we hear that alarm, it's going to ring true from now on that we are not getting the funding that comes with that alarm. Now, it could be PG&E, it could be the legislature, but from now on, every time I hear that alarm, I'm thinking about the money that is denied our students and our community because either Senator Laird or PG&E cannot get their act together and come to an agreement to support our community. So when you hear that alarm, I want you to hear our kids losing money, our schools losing money, and our most vulnerable kids losing money. And it is unacceptable. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Angel. Is there anyone else who would like to speak to this item? Seeing no one, Mr. Pinkerton.
Just any questions
I
for the
beg
board?
your pardon.
Yeah.
I'll bring it back. Chris.
So just, I think this is very thorough, and I think it tells the story real well. One thing I would like to see, and I've mentioned this to Dr. Prater, I'd like to see some infographics on this.
Okay.
I'd like to see some easy to understand charts, diagrams, things like that, that support what the dialogue is saying here, so that so that the public can see it quickly and understand it quickly. Some people may not understand this as well without those kinds of aids, and I would like to see that, please, to make it more transparent and clear to people.
Mrs. Boltonano?
Yeah, thank you for the document, and thank you for reviewing my suggested language. And I think it's a work in progress. And I think maybe we need to drop a footnote and say that this document will be updated periodically. I just don't want someone to think that it's stagnant, and the version that Mr. Angel read on Friday is different. You know, it might be different from a future version. So I just think it's helpful to indicate that.
You did. Mr. Banfield.
Mr. Pinkerton, thank you for the presentation. You know, I find myself always falling into the pit of being a former educator. And, you know, I'm caught between a rock and a hard spot sometimes when I realize firsthand what this means. But, you know, we can only do so much. And I thank you for your presentation very much. I have some wishful thinking, Dr. Prater, and I don't know if I should wish this, but it would be wonderful, perhaps, maybe not wonderful, if the public were made aware of this in such a way that the public really decided to act on this in a public way. I don't know. I mean, if the parents really understood what's going on here, that our programs are on the brink of disappearing within a few years. You know, from what Chris was saying, it sounds to me like our district was kind of a pauper district before PG&E came on the scene with the plant. And it sounds to me like that we could return to that status again. And I'm wondering if the public were really made aware of this, really truly made aware of this, what would happen? I'm being rhetorical.
Thank you. Mrs. Schaffer?
I didn't mean to still have it on. It was from announcing speakers, but I do thank you for your presentation and for my colleagues for their comments.
I got one sentence. So I'm sitting and Ryan, I love the way you make it so we can understand it, and I appreciate it. I love Chris's idea for pictures, but wouldn't it be interesting if we had to turn all the lights off in the school district because we couldn't afford to keep them on?
Mr. Clausen?
I mean, I just wanted to circle back to the topic of PG&E. I mean, I appreciate you guys. I appreciate you being here and speaking. It really boils down to a simple point that I think really came through stronger to me tonight more than ever, which is there's a big discussion about why PG&E can't support us, and I think it's pretty clear they can. I guess the takeaway I would ask is there is budget for charitable donations. We haven't gotten an answer why we can't even get $1 from that fund. In our meetings, we were told there's $15 million there. We don't expect a majority of that, but we expect something. And so, I mean, to come up here and say there's nothing you can do, your hands are tied, your team told us there's something you could do, and then they chose not to. And I would just ask for some community support, and I think it's a fair ask. But turning it back on us is that's not the right message. I do think we need to solve this together, and I appreciate that part of your comments. So thank you, and I hope we can, and I hope there's feedback on ways that charitable donation path is one of the ways to solve near-term problems while we work out legislative solutions longer term.
Okay, and I would just close it out by saying, Ryan, thanks for the presentation. It's not news to us, but it's hard to hear and it's painful for our students. And with regard to PG&E, I just don't understand how they are able to speak out of both sides of their mouth. I mean, that they are our partner, our friend, members of our community, and then on the other hand say that they are unable to assist us in these times. I just would like you to take back with you the information and to make it available to those who should know that we are the only community in this state that has to stock iodine pills in our homes and know where they are and be able to get to them if something goes wrong at your plant. Thank you. We'll move on.
Thank you.
Okay, item 7 point, I can't read here, 03, to submitted for approval the 2025-26 consolidated application.
Good evening, board. Again, the consolidated application, or what we abbreviate to the CON app, is used by the California Department of Education to distribute categorical funds from various federal programs. Mr. Pinkerton already went over the 4 different programs that we are applying for funding for, and we have done so historically, so thank you, Mr. Pinkerton. We'll be applying within this application for Title I, Title II, Title III, and Title IV funding. How we spend these funds is not necessarily outlined within the application. There are vague references to the separate categories, but the board has already approved within the LCAP federal addendum the outline plan for how we're going to spend these funds, and also within the LCAP itself, we have embedded these funds in order to be more transparent to the public as well as to the board. So tonight I'm presenting the CON app to you all for your approval.
Thank you. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak to this item, please? And would you identify yourself?
My name is Ben Lippert. Again, I was going to take 20 seconds. He's got 20 seconds. There's a parent action committee that knows a lot of stuff about unitary tax, PG&E. Use us. And I appreciate everything that they do. So that's what I was connected to what you said.
I couldn't understand. Okay. Is there any other public comment on the Con app?
Hi, my name's Andy Sims, and I just want to recognize what a gem we have here. I know her personally since she's moved here, and what an incredible gift she is to this district. I really, really, really hope you listen to her. She's amazing. Thank you.
You are preaching to the choir, sir. Thank you. Okay, moving on. Oh, we need to, geez. This has been a kind of an odd night. Hey, Mr. Banfield.
Well, I recommend that we approve
Based on Mr. Simpson's recommendation.
the Con app June 2025. No, wait, what am I approving? Oh, the consolidated application release, sorry.
I'll second.
Okay, so I have a motion by Mr. Banfield and a second by Mrs. Sheffer. Mr. Banfield.
Yes.
Mrs. Sheffer.
Yes.
Mrs. Baltadano.
Yes.
Mr. Unger.
Yes.
Mr. Clausen.
Yes.
Okay, and I'm a yes, so that passes 7-0 with Mr. Buckman absent at this moment. 6-0 with Mr. Buckman absent at this moment. Item 7.04, approval of adult school courses for 2025-2026.
Yes, good evening. So in a manner, fashion very similar to how we do our secondary courses, a relatively new requirement from the state for adult education courses to have them be approved by the local governing boards in the last couple years. And as a consortium, so we belong in a consortium with Lucia Mar and Templeton and Cuesta that we work together and coordinate what we do, what we offer, coordinate our funds. So we work in a concerted effort and don't kind of duplicate each other's stuff when we don't need to. And so as a group, this is a push within our group too of making sure our courses that we offer are board approved, as well as coordinate. One of the things you can see with those 3 courses that I'm bringing forward today, it mentions about CTE, and that can be maybe confusing. Typically CTE is what we use when we talk about our high school programs, right? But CTE is a broader term just in terms of career technical education, and in the adult education world, this has become more of a focus in terms of our students that are adults. How are our programs preparing them for a career or a trade or gainful employment in the community? And so it is, even though we think of CTE as high school, CTE is now, not now, but more of a focus within adult education of what courses we're offering, what programs are offering that align with CTE-like opportunities. And so that's why that is referenced in there. And so the 3 courses I bring for you today for approval are our culinary arts, our ESL, and our personal finance courses that we offer. And it gives the descriptions in the handout there as well. In case you're wondering, because we like acronyms in education, we have 2 kind of entities we work with, one at the state and one is federal. So CAPE is the California Adult Education Program, and we get funding as a consortium from them. And then at the federal level, there's we call it WIOA, that is a Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act that provides some funding as well. So the funding budget, so adult ed is separately funded. It's not part of general fund. We get CAPE funding, we get WIOA funding to provide the opportunities that we do. And so this is just a process, and as we add courses, just like we do kind of with our secondary, middle school, and high school courses, I'll come back at different times in the future to get those courses approved as we develop them within our adult education program.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak to this item? Seeing no one, then I'll bring it back to the board.
I'll move approval of item 7.04, approval of adult school courses for 2025-26.
I'll second it.
You know, I just wanted to make a quick comment, and that is that I really appreciate the adult school. I know people who've taken classes there. I have taken classes there. I took a little exercise class during the pandemic. And I just very much appreciate that as a district, we recognize the need for lifelong learning. We recognize the need to help people attain a GED, to continue with learning English, and to the community classes as a whole, not to mention parent participation, which is an enormous contribution. So just thank you. And I hope to see it continue to grow and thrive and attract additional community members. So
Thank you. Yes,
thank you.
I would
Thank
say
you for that work.
we do offer a lot. There are districts in our county that don't even have adult education
I
programs
know.
at all.
I've been very
And so,
surprised.
yeah,
Yeah.
we do offer a lot. These 3 courses are not exhaustive in the things that we offer. These are free. There are parent participation. There are Tai Chi. There's guitar. There's a bunch of other courses as well. Adult Ed offers quite a bit. So thank you. They do a lot. It's cool.
I just wanted to give a big shout out to Adult Ed. It's a wonderful program.
Thank you.
Mrs. Baldonado?
And I just want to say it's a self-funded program, correct?
Correct. So yeah, some of them are fee-based
Mhm.
programs that you could, like Tai Chi or guitar, even participation as tuition. There are scholarships. We have a local foundation family that provides grants for scholarships at school. But yeah, these ones here are free. So we have some that are free because we're funded to that, and they have other ones that are participate, like payment.
But to operate the adult school and to provide those offerings, it's not coming
Does
out
not
of our
impact
general
the general
fund.
fund. Correct. It is all separately funded through WIO and Cape money. Correct.
Okay, well then I have a motion by Mr. Unger, a second by Mr. Banfield. Mr. Unger,
Yes.
Mr. Banfield,
Yes.
Mr. Buckman, Mr. Clausen.
Yes.
Mrs. Sheffer,
Yes.
and I'm a yes, so that
And
passes.
I'm a yes.
Did I not make it to you?
That's okay. It's a long night. I'm a yes.
Please, you are a yes? Thank you. So that passes 6-0 with 1 abstention.
Thank you.
Jeez.
Good evening.
Okay. Sorry, I just
7.05.
got myself all confused.
7.05.
7.05, approval of annual declaration of need for fully qualified educators.
Yes,
Dr.
board, this
Puccia.
what's that?
I just was announcing you by name, Dr. Puccia.
I thought it was Mr. Dr. Puccia. Good evening, all. Glad to be back. And so this declaration of need for fully qualified educators must be on file with the Commission on Teacher Credentialing for any teacher who has anything less than either a preliminary or clear credential. And that we do have teachers that are in intern programs and are working through various other programs. And we work with the county on additional credentialing for teachers just to help them get to a point where they are fully credentialed. So we ask the board every year to consider this, and once it's approved, we send it up to the Sacramento for their files.
Thank you. Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak to this? Please. Mr. Angel.
Good evening. I just had a question regarding TK. I know that TK has more stringent requirements or a different set of requirements than a regular multiple subject credential, and so I just wanted to know if our need for fully qualified educators includes the TK.
Mr. Angel, at this point in time, I'm not aware of any TK teacher that we have in the system that's not credentialed, qualified, and has met that through the it's 24-hour additional credits of early childhood education. I'm not aware of any that we don't have at this point in time.
Okay, thank you. I'll bring it back to the board. Mr. Clausen.
My light is on unintentionally.
Okay. So seeing that there is no board comment, I'm seeking a motion.
I would move to accept item 7.05, approval of annual declaration of need for fully qualified educators.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion by Mrs. Sheffer and a second by Mr. Buckman. Mrs. Sheffer?
Yes.
Mr. Buckman? Yes. Mr. Clausen?
Yes.
Mr. Banfield?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mrs. Baltodano?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. That passes 7-0. Item 7.06 is proposed revisions to board policy 0410, non-discrimination in district programs and activities, a first reading. Mrs. Yamashita.
Good evening, board. I am bringing this to you upon the recommendation of CSBA and our board policy subcommittee. And this non-discrimination policy is related to the ever-changing landscape of anti-discrimination harassment policies that are changing between the federal government and our California governmental laws. A highlight of this one is this updates the policy to Senate Bill 153 from 2024, which prohibits the governing board from adopting or approving the use of any textbook, instructional materials, supplementary instructional materials, or curriculum for classroom instruction if its use would subject a student to unlawful discrimination in accordance with our state laws. So I encourage you to please review this, discuss this, and I'd like this to come back as a second reading.
Are we in agreement that we'd like to bring it back for a second reading? Mr. Clausen, your light's on? Would you like to just move forward as the next several items are yours?
If I may, yes, I will
changes?
continue
Okay.
on. The next board policy is 5113.1, chronic absenteeism and truancy. This one is also brought forward through the gamut process on California school boards, and our school board policy review committee has already reviewed it, as have our directors. But essentially, we've added a philosophical paragraph language which provides that students who are identified as chronically absent or truant receives appropriate support services and early interventions. And then it's also encouraging us to think about how we are going to consult with the students and the families of the students about what is causing them to be chronically absent or truant, so that we can intervene in ways that are effective to remove barriers to their regular attendance at school. And to that end, our plan, we have talked about chronic absenteeism as being still a challenge for us, specifically at the middle school level, particularly with about 20 to Los Osos Middle School ended last year in the high teens. I'm sorry, Laguna Middle School ended last year in the high teens of chronically absent students, and Los Osos Middle School ended the year at about 24% of their students are chronically absent. And so this is going to be a major continued area of focus for our instructional team moving forward, headed by Chris Dowler, as well as Dan Neff, working with Heather Contreras and Nathan Meinert at the school level. Chronic absenteeism is addressed through the county SEB program that we have been talking a lot about tonight in our MTSS programming. So it's important that we address absenteeism in a multi-tiered system of support. The all things we do are keeping it in touch with parents, notifying them when the child's absent, sending the letters out. That's the tier 1 things we do, but we really need to develop further and our tier 2 supports for when we have a group of students that are chronically absent and experiencing barriers to attending regularly, and what are the systematic things we do for those groups of students will need to continue to grow over the course of this year. So I'm asking you to please review this policy and hopefully approve it at the second reading.
Thank you.
The third policy I'm bringing forward tonight, which is Board Policy 5126, Awards for Achievement, should look familiar to you because at the very end of last school year, I made this one very difficult and confusing because I had one set of documents and you were looking at a different set of documents in the board agenda. So I remember and apologize for that snafu I caused. What you're looking at tonight is accurate and correct. And essentially, we do have district and school awards. Children are never charged to receive any of those awards. We do participate in the Golden State Seal Merit Diploma, and we do participate in the State Seal of Biliteracy, and both of those are given at the high school level.
Okay, and is it your recommendation that we bring this back?
Please, let's bring this back
let's
for a second
backtrack.
reading now that we're all clear.
Oh, did you have a comment?
I do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I saw that we're striking the state seal of civic engagement.
Mm-hmm.
And my understanding is there's actually some local momentum around that program with the County Office of Education and local government. And we have students in our district participating in programs aimed at earning that seal. And I guess I'm questioning why we're eliminating it. And I guess my personal opinion is I would like to not eliminate it.
Very well. Let me get in touch with you as a follow-up before I bring it back as a second reading with Mr. Neff and our two high school principals.
Okay. But is the intention to eliminate that
The
seal?
intention was to eliminate it in that it's not something that we currently participate in and offer.
Okay.
So that was why it was struck out.
Okay. So if we wanted to reconsider that, that's part of the board policy discussion, or that's just a separate discussion?
We could choose to do it either way. What we can't do is put it in the board policy and not do it.
I see.
But we can do it and not identify it in the board policy.
Okay.
So I think we need to talk to Mr. Neff and our high school principals to establish how quickly do we want to approve the board policy, even if we wanted to start down the path of engaging on the civic engagement, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, so
I won't bring that one back next time for a second reading until I can revisit it with the high school principals and the board policy subcommittee again.
So that one is not coming back. Let's backtrack to 7.07, the chronic absence policy, because I neglected to ask if the board was in agreement on bringing that one back. Yes? Okay, thank you.
Okay, and the final policy is actually a board bylaw, BB 9223, regarding the process by which vacancies on the board get filled. And the changes to this are mostly, as you'll see, updates and crossouts through Gamut.
And your recommendation is to?
My recommendation would be to move it forward to a second reading next time.
Okay. And is the board in agreement with that? Okay.
Okay.
Good.
Thank you very much for your time.
Okay, then I'm moving on to the action consent agenda. Please let me know if you would like anything pulled. 8.01, approval of minutes of June 17th. 8.02, approval of the minutes of July 17th. 8.03, approval of 2025-2026 Morro Bay High School and San Luis Obispo High School Agricultural Career Technical Education Incentive Grants. 8.04, approval of warrants and payroll for June 2025, payroll warrants for June 10, 2025, and June 30, 2025, and liability payroll for July 15, 2025. 8.05. Okay. 8.06, approval of purchase orders and CalCard purchases. 8.07, approval of furniture and equipment requests. 8.08, approval of field trip requests.
Paul, please.
Was that you, Mr. Clausen? Okay. 8.09, approval of certificated and classified personnel items. 8.10, acceptance of donations. I am seeking a motion then for approval of items 8.01 through 8.04, 8.06, and 8.07,
I so,
and
oh, sorry.
8.9, and 8.10.
I so move.
Second.
Did you second, Mr. Clausen?
I did.
You know, I thought
Excuse
I
me,
told you.
excuse me, I would appreciate the opportunity to second 8.01, 02, 03, 04, 06, 07, 09, and 10.
Okay, you're mumbling, and I told you I forgot my hearing aids. And so I could not tell if you were the second on that. I have a motion by Mr. Buckman, a second by Mr. Clausen. Mr. Buckman,
Yes.
Mr. Clausen.
Yes.
Mrs. Baltodano.
Yes.
Mr. Unger.
Yes.
Mr. Banfield.
Yes.
Mrs. Sheffer.
Yes.
And I'm a yes. So that passes 7-0. Mr. Buckman, you pulled 8.05.
Yes, thank you. And Kate, I know Katie left, Ryan, so I may need an answer on another time. But I noticed when I was reviewing these warrants and all these bills and stuff, it's the first time I've seen where something's being paid based on an estimate. So when I put it's all the gotta get back to my other notes. It looks like all the utility bills are being paid. Hang on. The estimated cost of water, estimated garbage cost, estimated PG&E, and estimated Verizon. And I'm just not sure what that means. I know I don't pay my bills.
I'll have to find out.
I know, but I
don't
don't pay
know
my
either,
bills based on
honestly.
estimates.
I don't know what the estimate, I don't know why it says estimate.
It's okay, thanks.
That's a new one. But I'll find out, let you know.
Mine might be low.
Yeah, I had the
hope
same
so.
question. I wasn't sure though if
Thanks.
maybe I had missed it in the past.
So would you like to move to approve it?
Sure. I'll move to approve 8.05.
I'll second.
So a motion by Mr. Buckman and a second by Mrs. Sheffer. Mr. Buckman.
Yes.
Mrs. Sheffer.
Yes.
Mr. Clausen.
Yes.
Mrs. Baltodano.
Yes.
Mr. Unger.
Yes.
Mr. Banfield.
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well. That passes 7-0. 8.08. Mr. Clausen, you pulled that?
Yeah, I pulled this one. The reason I pulled it is last time we had one of these, we pulled it, and I think Eric, you raised some equity concerns about the last one, and we didn't really get into details. I guess I wanted to get perspective on whether you thought those were resolved. I mean, the last one was regarding a football team trip to Hawaii. These are, one's a sports one, one's a non-sport one. And I mean, I think you raised a fair question, but I think if we're raising it there, I just want to see if it's resolved as we approve more, you know?
Right. No, I appreciate that. The conversation that I had with staff before and after that vote was basically that there's discussion or there's steps being taken right now to evaluate our process for approving out-of-state field trips and field trips during the school year that may or may not be directly academic. And so my understanding is that that process is evolving. And so I did have some questions regarding these specific field trips that I did get addressed, including more information about who the chaperones were, because it wasn't clear on the mock trial field trip. And also importantly for both of them, I wanted clarification that the school time that students and the assignments that students are going to be missing to attend these programs, whether they would be expected to keep up with those assignments, or are they just, you know, getting a pass on those assignments, particularly with the PowerPoints that they're going to be doing, that the water polo team would be doing. It was unclear to me that, was that in lieu of all other assignments or tests that they might be missing? And the explanation that I got from Mr. Scaldi was that, no, they are required to talk with each of their teachers in advance and find out what they will be missing and how they're going to make it up. And then I think the other question I had was clarity on how both of these trips are being funded. And so there has been fundraising. It does, my greater concern, which I think is an equity concern, is to, it's great that these teams have been able to raise funds to do these important things. And I think you could make an argument for the academic implications of both of these, I'll say, and any of them, including the ones that we approved at the last meeting. But I'm wondering, could other groups of our students, could other teams, could other groups of students that we serve also have those fundraising capacities? And what's the response for when another team or another group of students wants to go to state, to go to Sacramento to compete in a state competition, or go out of state with their group? I just want to make sure that we have some policies in place for making sure that these sort of opportunities are accessible to all students, so that we are closing, not contributing to the opportunity gap, because these are opportunities, and I appreciate the value of them. So that's, I think, what I was getting at.
Great. No, so I guess just to clarify then, I mean, in digging in, you're finding that there's a sound set of policies to support these kinds of trips. Because I mean, I think there's two parts of it. You're bringing up really valid concerns, and then the other side is that this is creating great opportunities for our students. It's creating momentum and enthusiasm with fundraising and parents, and this type of community support on top of our core programs, I think, is really exciting if done right. And I appreciate your kind of view to making sure it's done right.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I don't yet feel that we're doing it right, and we might be, but I still feel like I do need more information. So I would like to continue to have that conversation and have a better sense of what policies are in place and how we're doing that, and also whether we should be weighing more directly academic field trip opportunities, or maybe not so much weighing, but should there be different policies for different types of field trips? And I'm not saying there should be. I'm just saying these are the kind of policy discussions that I think should be happening, because this is how systemic disparities can happen.
Okay.
So I'm just sensitive to that.
But we're
so
supportive. But overall, we're feeling okay, and there's room for more thought and growth.
Yeah,
and,
I don't know that I want to keep seeing these every board meeting without a little bit more explanation or a presentation by staff on exactly what policies are in place and what policies need to be reevaluated and how they're going to be reevaluated. I guess that would be how I would leave it.
Got it.
And I'm proud of all of our teams.
Yeah.
I'm proud of all of our teams that have achieved these. They're getting invited to these places because they've earned them. So I do appreciate that. And I appreciate the hard work of our staff and coaches and getting them to that place. And I appreciate community members that are supporting with fundraising efforts. I want to just make sure that we have, that all of our students have access to these sorts of opportunities when they've earned them.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, and I think for the public, just a big thank you to all of you that fundraised for these. And we appreciate all the support for our kids that is shown across all these different activities, sports, non-sports, traveling. So. I move to approve 8.08. Did I mumble?
No. I read your lips, and I'll second. So we've got a motion by Mr. Clausen, a second by myself. Mr. Clausen?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Mr. Buckman?
I'm a yes.
Mrs. Sheffer?
Yep.
Mr. Banfield?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mrs. Baltadano?
Yes.
That passes 7-0. Do we have anything for the advanced agenda? How about reports by board members? Mr. Banfield?
So Papa B went to see some of his grandchildren on the coast schools. So I saw Chase in his second grade class at Monarch, and Monarch was, it looked like everybody was so excited on the first day of school. Just a lot of activity, and it looked like parents were happy and students were excited. It was really neat. And then I went over to Baywood, and the three children there, and they were all outdoors, and they were all reviewing playground rules. And I asked Principal May, well, what's this all about? And she said, well, we're trying to get everybody set right on what's appropriate for playground behavior and lunch behavior. It was really fun to see. They were all outdoors. First time I'd ever seen a school start their day outdoors like that. It's kind of neat. Anyway.
Thank you. Mr. Buckman.
Yes, thanks. Just real quickly, I want to thank the San Luis Blues baseball team. They right at the end of the school year, they gave free tickets to the kids at Hawthorne. I took one of those and was able to attend the game for free. And then August 13th, I met with the staff and students at Meadow Park because the students were being introduced to their teachers because Hawthorne wasn't ready. But while I was there, and the staff and the parents and everybody learned that school would be finished the next day. So it was kind of a fun day in the park. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, if there's no additional comment, then this meeting is adjourned.
Can you get water bottles that are using Can you do it?
No, I can never do those.
You want it open?
Watch out because it's going to
I
explode.
know.
It's
They smash.
Costco ones are.
How did you do it?